Chapter 751. The Genius of the Blood Demon Clan. The Blood Demon King, Su-Mo, dead. Even before Su-Mo died, he never thought that he would die. Moreover, he would die at the hands of a human ant that he had always despised. Perhaps, a few months ago, Su-Mo would not have thought that he would die on the path of devouring bloodlines, and die in a sealed new large world. Sure enough, a demon king who knows arcane magical powers and has a complete body and demon soul is much harder to deal with than the last demon king. Watching Su-Mo's body gradually collapse and turn into drops of blood in the sea of blood, Tianyang suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. The battle with Su-Mo was not long. It probably did not even last a day and a night. Compared to the battle with the Demon Emperor, it was undoubtedly much shorter. However, this short battle was the most dangerous battle Tianyang had ever experienced. Whether it was the complete version of the Demon King with a complete body and demon soul, the cultivation of the peak of Heaven Ascension Realm Level 5, or that terrifying arcane magical power, the immemorial Blood Seal. If it was another Sea of Soul Realm Level 8, no, Sea of Soul Realm Level 3, they would only be killed in seconds. However, Tianyang relied on himself to kill Su-Mo. Such a feat happened when Tianyang was still some time away from 20 years old. It was simply unique in the world. However, this guy's consciousness has been destroyed. The remaining demon soul fragments and demon soul origin are good things. The corners of Tianyang's mouth curled up slightly as he looked at the demon soul fragments and demon soul origin in the Sea of Blood. He would not devour the Sea of Blood, but these things from the Blood Demon King, Su-Mo, were his spoils of war. It would be disrespectful for him to refuse. Disperse. I suffered such an unexpected disaster. I hope that in the next life, I can be safe. After extracting the demon soul fragments and demon soul origin from the Sea of Blood, Tianyang looked at the remaining huge Sea of Blood. Sighing, he stretched out his hand and extracted the demon energy from the Sea of Blood, swallowing it into the Sky Sword. The rest of the Blood Chief flew in all directions of the northern wilderness region and became silent. Then, the next step is to properly devour the spoils of war that were obtained with great difficulty. Tianyang smiled as he withdrew his gaze from the blood-colored demonic soul fragment and the demonic soul origin that looked like a blood-colored pearl. True devouring heaven seal out. First Elder, look. The Blood Sea. The Blood Sea was retreating. It's gone. Snowgale State, border. In the end, Tian Shanxian could not dissuade the old Grand Elder of the Tian family who had lost an arm and half a leg. She came to the edge of the Blood Sea. Tian Shanxian knew that Tianyang would definitely fight with the Blood Demon King this time. Even a Spirit King expert like the sect master of the Phoenix Immortal Sect would tremble and submit to him. If it was before coming here, Tian Shanxian would definitely think that this trip would be a success. However, when Tian Shanxian arrived at the northern wilderness region and witnessed the power of the Blood Demon King, Su-Mo, she realized how terrifying he was. It was inevitable that her confidence in Tianyang would decrease by a lot. If Tianyang knew about Tian Shanxian's inner thoughts, he would probably agree with her. The Blood Demon Clan was at the peak of Heaven Ascension Realm Level 5, had a trace of arcane magical power, and was a king demon clan. Even the old Dragon King of the EC Dragon Palace might not be able to suppress an existence of this level. If Tian Shanxian's previous plan had succeeded and she had invited a Spirit King expert to help, Tianyang was sure that. If a Spirit King expert came, one would die. If two came, two would die. It's gone, gone, gone. The Tian family's first elder stared blankly at the Blood Sea that had disappeared in the blink of an eye, not even leaving a trace on the ground, and said in a trembling voice. After that, he did not care that his newly grown left knee could not be injured and suddenly knelt down. The bloodline of the Tian family is preserved. The heavens have eyes. The heavens have eyes. The master of the Tian family is the master of the Tian family. The Tian family's first elder roared. Hearing this, Tian Shanxian, Tian Ling, and the other members of the Tian family trembled and then knelt down one after another. Facing Tianyang's direction, They bowed from afar. The master of the Tian family is the master of the Tian family. What's going on with this energy? Tian Yang, who was digesting and absorbing the blood demon fragments and blood demon origin left by the blood demon king, Su Mo, suddenly raised his eyebrows and said, "Just now, there seemed to be a trace of weak energy that was injected into his body, and something in his body seemed to have been triggered. However, when Tian Yang was about to investigate, that thing disappeared without a trace. After searching in vain, Tian Yang could only give up and concentrate on studying the Blood Demon King Su Mo's demon soul fragments. Due to the 10,000 swords returned to origin, Su Mo's soul was instantly destroyed, and most of his memories disappeared along with the sword. What Tian Yang could obtain from the demonic soul fragments was only a small portion. However, it was enough. Outside the Tianshao Great World, there's an endless starry sky, and in the endless starry sky, there's an endless big world. This endless big world is the myriad worlds in the heavens. It is also known as the myriad worlds in the starry sky. Tianyang's mind was agitated as he checked the memories of the blood demon king Su Mo. He was shocked. Although he was a great emperor of a generation, if it were not for the great destruction of civilization, he would have broken the world barrier and become an existence that could come and go freely from the myriad worlds. However, the reality was like this, and there were no ifs. In the end, Tianyang was still in the Tianshao Great World. Because the Tianshao Great World was a closed, new world, Tianyang's knowledge of the myriad worlds in the heavens was only fragments that could not be pieced together. He had no concept of the outside world. However, Sumo's memory now helped him to complete it. There are endless worlds in the myriad worlds, and the demon realm is one of the most powerful worlds in the myriad worlds. And alongside the demon realm, this part of the memory is incomplete. Before the blood demon king, Su Mo, came to the Tianshao Great World, he plundered in a world called the Great Earth Spirit World. Tianyang said to himself, and his eyes flashed with anger. Although this part of the memory was incomplete, Tianyang could still infer what kind of tragic things the blood demon king, Su Mo, had done in the Great Earth Spirit World through the bloody scenes. The reason why he returned to the Tianshao Great World was that outside the world barrier of the Great Earth Spirit World, a space crack was found, and the space crack was connected to the Northern Wilderness Secret Realm. Tianyang's heart shook, and he suddenly became enlightened. In this Northern Wilderness region, the only thing that could be connected to the outside world was the Northern Wilderness Secret Realm and the mysterious 9-step stairway. This 9-step stairway had the baptism of Xinguang and could casually give heaven-level martial arts skills. It was definitely not something that could be found in this world. If that was the case, everything made sense. I've seen most of these memory fragments. Now, let's look at the last one, Tianyang muttered, and took the last and largest memory fragment. In the next moment, Tianyang's pupils shrank, and he cried out in horror. Chapter 752. The ancient blood seal was an ancient magical power. Even the heavenly sons had only seen a few, and this primordial blood seal was the first. He had thought that the cultivation method of the ancient blood seal would definitely be cleaned up by Blood Demon King Su Mo before he died, but he did not expect it to be preserved intact. It could be said that the other memories, even the memories of the Earth Spirit World and the Demon Realm, were incomplete. Only the cultivation method of the ancient blood seal was intact. My previous 10,000 swords returned to origin was almost as powerful as Wu Zun's attack. Probably because it was too powerful, this Blood Demon King did not even have time to delete his memory. Tianyang said to himself. Hearing this, Sanguinati, who was beside him, suddenly showed a look of horror. Deleting memories was nothing for a Heaven Ascension Realm expert. At the Heaven Ascension Realm, it could be said that the mystery of the soul could be comprehended. And for a race like the Blood Demon clan, which required strong soul power, the degree of comprehension was higher than that of the human race in the same realm. Sanguinati asked himself, if he wanted to delete his memory before he died, it would only take a few seconds. Blood Demon King Su Mo's soul power was stronger than his, so it might only take a few milliseconds. However, even so, it still could not be deleted. How powerful was Tianyang's previous sword attack? Tianyang, on the other hand, did not feel anything. He was well aware of the power of the sword he had slashed out. The divine sky martial honorable's power had almost pushed his cultivation level to that of a half-step martial honorable, and his swordsmanship cultivation was above that of a half-step wuzun. It was even stronger than most wuzun. The extreme realm of this world was wuzun's realm, and in Tianyang's previous life, he had broken through the extreme realm. The swordsmanship of breaking through the extreme realm was the swordsmanship of the sage realm. The sage realm. The power of the sage realm could kill Wu Zun instantly, let alone Su Immo, who was at the peak of the 5th level of the Heaven Ascension realm. At this time, Tianyang was also immersed in the primordial blood seal. Primordial superpowers were not the same as ordinary martial skills, but they could also be divided. There were strong and weak primordial super skills. The strong ones were something that even sacred martial artists couldn't compare to. The weak ones were probably only Earth rank or Heaven rank martial techniques. The primordial blood seal was a half-saint level primordial divine ability. In the beginning, the ancient blood seal was not a natal ability of the blood demons. Instead, a saint emperor of the blood demons spent a great deal of effort to modify it after obtaining it. After the modification, its name became the immemorial blood demon seal, and not the immemorial blood desolation seal. But before I can cultivate the primordial blood demon seal, I still have to cultivate the first stage of the primordial blood wilderness seal. So, I can also learn the primordial blood wilderness seal. Tianyang's eyes lit up as he carefully digested the massive amount of information brought by the memory fragments. Even though he had died once, his heart couldn't help but thump. The primordial blood seal was a primordial divine ability. Although it was only the first stage of the half-saint level primordial blood wilderness seal, it was still a heavenly rank martial technique. Although Tianyang wasn't very proficient in hand seals, if he could learn them, he would be able to learn them. The power of the primordial blood wilderness seal would only be stronger than the 10,000 returning swords. Then, there's no time to lose. I'll start cultivating the primordial blood wilderness seal immediately. Tianyang laughed loudly and used the remaining Shun Tian Wuzun's power to restore his true yuan. He then sat down cross-legged and carefully comprehended the primordial blood wilderness seal. Martial techniques were just tools. There was no good or evil in martial techniques. It varied from person to person. If it was good, it would be good. If it was evil, it would be evil. Disregarding the fact that this was a primordial divine ability created by an unknown race in the primordial era, even if it was the primordial blood demon seal, Tianyang would still learn it if he could. Just as Tianyang was comprehending and cultivating in the center of the northern wilderness region, the only surviving country in the entire northern wilderness region, the Arctic nation, was already in chaos. The demon was dead. The Blood Sea had retreated, and the Windy Nation, Sky Moon Nation, Tinsong Nation, and Snow Wilderness Nation were all destroyed. The Arctic Nation no longer had any external threats, and the king of the Arctic Nation had been killed not long ago. Immediately, the countless aristocratic families of the Snow Gale State began to become restless for the position of the 9 and 5. That was the only king of the Northern Wilderness region. It would lead all the survivors in the Northern Wilderness region. In other words, if they could ascend to the throne, they would be the governor of the Northern Wilderness region. Therefore, for the king of the Arctic nation and for the governor of the Northern Wilderness region, all the families mustered all their strength and fiercely attacked the throne. It was a pity that their plans and strategies were all useless. 10 days. The king of the Arctic nation had only been vacant for 10 days, and a strong person appeared in the royal family. She resisted the pressure of countless families and ascended to the throne again. This person was the one who had a good relationship with Tianyang when he was in the Arctic nation, Princess Ling Ling. The reason why Princess Ling Ling could suddenly become the governor of the Northern Wilderness region was naturally because of the Tian family support. And the Tian family support was because of the Sword King who had not returned to the Arctic nation. Sitting on the throne, Princess Ling Ling looked at the officials, generals, and family heads in front of her. She was a little dazed. In the past, she was just a little princess who had to rely on external forces to compete with the third prince. These family heads, officials, and generals had never taken her seriously. But now, those who looked down on her in the past had to lower their proud heads in front of her now. All of this was because of Tianyang. Beside her, Tian Chanqian stood calmly and looked at the people in front of her. If the Tian family had not been destroyed, and there were only a few dozen people left, it would not be enough to support an entire country. The governor of the Northern Wilderness region should be from the Tian family. However, it was not a big deal to give it to Princess Ling Ling. Although the Tian family was almost destroyed, as long as Tianyang was still around, no one in the Northern Wilderness region would dare to have any improper thoughts. Tianyang was like the guardian god of the Northern Wilderness region. Now, I announce that the Northern Wilderness region will be led by the Arctic nation. The Arctic nation will be led by the Tian family. The Tian family will be the #1 family above the imperial family. Do you have any objections? Princess Ling Ling sat on the throne and said. Hearing this, all the powerful people in the Arctic nation nodded and knelt on the ground. We obey the Empress' decree. In the center of the Northern Wilderness region, in a deserted mountain range, Tianyang opened his eyes and shot out a ball of shocking light. He stood up at lightning speed and formed a seal with his hands. At the same time, he roared, Immemorial blood seal. There was no infusion of spiritual core. It was just a seal. However, this seal still swept across space and shattered a 1,000-meter-tall mountain 100 miles away. The immemorial superpower is indeed an immemorial superpower. This kind of power is indeed extraordinary. However, if I want to use the immemorial blood seal with all my strength, even if I have the divine dragon body that even Blood Demon King Su Mo can't compare to, I will still need to consume almost half of my blood chi, Tianyang muttered to himself and spread out the seal with his hands. Now, I'll use it as my trump card. Even Wu Zun won't think that a half-sage martial arts technique is weak. Tianyang smiled faintly and rose into the air with sanguinity. However, the last obsession of this body seems to still be there. Tianyang chuckled and activated the divine wilderness heaven spiritual technique. He used the air-stepping secret technique and disappeared suddenly. He headed toward the Arctic nation. Behind Tianyang, Sanguinati looked at Tianyang in awe. He felt a trace of undetectable aura from Tianyang. Chapter 753. Ninth Sea of Soul Realm. Tianyang was only 19 years old. He was reborn at the age of 15 and reached the Ninth Sea of Soul Realm at the age of 19. It only took him 4 years to reach a realm that most people could never reach in their lifetime. Although Sanguinati was not sure of Tianyang's exact age, he knew, with Tianyang's speed, not to mention the Tianxiao Great World, even in the endless universe, he would be a peerless genius. However, Tianyang did not have such awareness. He frowned slightly as he recalled the few memories of this body. His parents were the last obsession of this body. Tianyang had never seen his mother since he was conscious. His father had also disappeared when Tianyang was 8 years old. The son of the Tian family's patriarch was actually an orphan with no parents and a naturally terminated meridians. This was also one of the reasons why this body was so easily poisoned to death by Tian Zhen's poison. In my memory, his mother was fine, but his father, as the head of the Tian family, was not injured at all when he fought. But I can't rule out the possibility that his father was a peerless expert. Every time he fought, he was invincible and was not injured. However, both of them are unlikely. Fine, I'll just ask the elders. Tianyang muttered to himself. He then sped up and flew towards the Blizzard State. Blizzard State. After the iron fist of the newly appointed Ling Ling Empress and the obedience of the various aristocratic families, the Snow Gale State, which was riddled with holes, gradually recovered to its original state. In fact, because the enemies were all dead, the state was even stronger than before. Yangtian City. Although Yang Tian City was prosperous in the past, it was far from the Blizzard Royal City. The strongest force was the Tian family, which did not even have a transformed Origin Realm cultivator. Not long ago, it was in ruins, but now the strongest force was still the Tian family. However, Yang Tian City was many times more prosperous than before. It was even more prosperous than the Blizzard Royal City, which had countless forces and families stationed there. Not bad, not bad. You recovered so quickly. As Tianyang walked on the street, he nodded his head in satisfaction as he looked at the people around him, who were rubbing shoulders with each other. Yang Tian City is the foundation of the Tian family. For Yang Tian City to grow, Tianyang is naturally happy. That's because of you, my lord. If it weren't for you, the entire Snowgale Nation would have been reduced to a sea of blood, not to mention flourishing. Sanguinati said with a smile. Tianyang did not comment on this. However, when they reached the center of Yang Tian City, but he was shocked to find out. The former city lord's mansion had been reduced to ashes at an unknown time. What replaced? It was a huge square, and in the center of the square stood a statue that was dozens of feet tall. He held a long sword in his hand and was clad in battle armor. His face was resolute, but he exuded the aura of a young man. If this person wasn't Tianyang, then who was he? Tianyang was speechless. How many days had he been in closed-door training? Could it be that in less than a month, a 200-meter-tall statue of him was built here? Moreover, looking at the luster on the surface of the statue, it was completely different from ordinary bluestone. It was most likely a material used to forge low-grade treasured equipment, green silver, or this is because the people love my lord. Sanguinati smiled. Hearing this, Tianyang waved his hand. All right, since we're done strolling around Yang Tian City, let's return to the Tian family. Yes, Tian family. As the guardian of the northern wilderness region, Sword King Tianyang's family. After the Tian family was destroyed, they naturally used the fastest speed to rebuild it. Not sure if it was intentional by the Tian family's big elder, but when the statue of Tianyang in the center of Yang Tian City was completed, the Tian family's reconstruction was also completed. The difference was less than a quarter of an hour. The area of the Tian family was naturally much larger than before, but the specific layout and facilities were exactly the same as before Tianyang left Snowgale Nation. Big Elder is really considerate. Looking at his residence, which was no different from a few years ago, Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, the Tian family's big elder replied, "Don't mention it. This is what this old man should do." Under the effect of the medicinal pills given by Tianyang, the Tian family's big elder's limbs had already recovered. Even his cultivation base had improved a little. The amount of medicinal pills he obtained in the earthly Emperor Small World was so much that Tianyang wanted to vomit. He couldn't even finish eating them like jelly beans. It wasn't a bad idea to reward his subordinates. Sir Patriarch, all the information about the previous Sir Patriarch has been sorted out by me and placed in a small warehouse behind your residence. Please check it, the Tian family's big elder said. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded. All right, you can go back first. Then, Tianyang bypassed his residence alone and came to the small warehouse mentioned by the Tian family's big elder. There weren't many things inside. In addition to various treasured weapons and diaries used by the previous Tian family's patriarch, there were only things written by the Tian family's big elder. Tianyang didn't care. He released his soul force and stored all these things into his sea of soul. However, to Tianyang's disappointment, most of these things were already known to him. As for his mother and the mystery of the disappearance of the Tian family's patriarch, there was none. There's actually something there that can resist my soul force. At this time, Tianyang's expression suddenly changed. He found a small square table used by the Tian family's patriarch in the corner. In the drawer of the small square table, there was the envelope that resisted Tianyang's soul force. Tianyang's heart skipped a beat. He stepped forward and picked up the envelope. As for the envelope, it instantly released a terrifying aura that pierced through the skin of Tianyang's finger and extracted a drop of blood. Bloodline seal? This is definitely not the means of a small country's patriarch. Tianyang's expression suddenly changed. Looking at the envelope, after the blood was extracted, it suddenly burst out a shocking light. At this time, an aura that didn't belong to this world suddenly rushed out. Tianyang's face changed. He stretched out his hand and blocked this terrifying aura. His face was slightly shocked. This aura was actually from a half-step heavenly completion realm. At this time, the light slowly weakened. Tianyang's heart was filled with endless doubts. The Tian family's patriarch actually left such an envelope. Not only does the envelope have a bloodline seal, but also has the aura of a half-step heavenly completion realm from outside the Tianshao Great World. Thinking of the Tian family's undying bloodline, Tianyang's face suddenly changed. At this time, the light suddenly condensing into a handsome middle-aged man. The middle-aged man looked at Tianyang with kind eyes and slowly opened his mouth. Chapter 754. By the time you find this envelope, I will no longer be in this world, the middle-aged man spoke slowly. Tianyang's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. Although he did not know what the family head of the Tian family was, he was definitely not in the Dao Fire Realm. Without the Dao Fire Realm, he was able to cross worlds and achieve a feat that even Heaven Completion Realm experts could not achieve. Although I don't know if you know the secret of the Tian family, I will tell you now. In fact, the people of the Tian family have the strongest bloodline in the myriad of worlds, the immortal bloodline. The immortal bloodline is extremely powerful. If you can cultivate it to the extreme, not only will your body be immortal, but your soul will also be immortal. Although the Tian family's bloodline power is weak, we are the direct descendants of the immortal Heavenly Lord, an almighty of the myriad of worlds in the primordial era. The middle-aged man said proudly. Tianyang's pupil shrank. The almighty of the myriad of worlds in the primordial era, the immortal Heavenly Lord? The primordial era was the truly powerful era before the myriad of worlds were separated. At that time, the myriad of worlds were just countless realms on a continent. Just think about it. There were countless experts in the myriad of worlds. In the primordial era, which was even more ancient than the primordial era, how many experts would there be? Tianyang instinctively felt that the immortal Heavenly Lord was definitely not Wuzun. He was afraid that Wuzun was just an ant in front of the immortal Heavenly Lord. The almighty of the immortal Heavenly Lord's level is not something that the natives of the vast worlds like us can imagine. Although we are the direct descendants of the immortal Heavenly Lord, the immortal bloodline in our generation is almost non-existent. The middle-aged man spoke slowly, and Tianyang's mood became tense. There seemed to be a cloud of fog in his heart that was about to disperse. However, in my generation, the immortal bloodline suddenly changed, and there was an atavism. When I was 32 years old, which was when you were 8 years old, the atavism of my immortal bloodline finally reached a limit. My immortal bloodline has awakened, the middle-aged man roared. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes lit up. Everything suddenly became clear. Why wasn't there a single wound on the Tian family's head? Because all wounds in front of the immortal bloodline were weak and could be healed in the blink of an eye. Why was it that the Tian clan, which did not have a single cultivator in the essence transformation realm other than the Tian clan's patriarch, was able to remain at the forefront of the 8 great clans? Even the Soaring Cloud sect had to give face to Tianyang, who was born with terminated meridians and could not awaken his martial soul. That was because the Tian family's family head had the undying bloodline, making him an unkillable existence. Just by wasting time, he could exhaust an entire sect to death. At this moment, all the illogical points were explained. After awakening the undying bloodline, I finally realized that I was finally qualified to search for your mother, the middle-aged man said excitedly, as if he had returned to the time when his bloodline had just awakened. Tianyang's pupils constricted. His mother? Tianyang had originally thought that this body's father was the greatest secret. In the end, after his father, his mother also had secrets? In fact, your mother was not from this world. She came from a top clan in a great world far beyond the Tianshao Great World. The middle-aged man's voice suddenly turned gloomy. Even though this letter had been left behind almost 10 years ago, Tianyang could still sense the middle-aged man's nostalgia and melancholy. Your mother's surname was Xianyuan, and her name was Qingming. Xianyuan Qingming, a beautiful name, right? The Xianyuan family is definitely one of the most powerful clans in that world. Even the pinnacle of the Heaven Ascension realm in the heavenly firmament world would at most be in the middle of the Xianyuan family. At that time, your mother came to the Tianshao Great World by chance. She was accompanied by a Heaven Ascension realm expert, and this was because of the restrictions of the Tianshao Great World's world barrier. The middle-aged man sighed. Tianyang's expression changed. The middle-aged man spoke again. At that time, your mother and I quickly fell in love. But at that time, I was just an insignificant ant. An ant who hadn't even broken through to the primordial transformation realm. Compared to the direct descendants of a Xianyuan family, you were simply a lowly ant on the ground and a phoenix soaring in the sky. When you were 8 months old, your mother's secret disappearance was discovered by the bodyguard, and you were forcefully given birth to. You were about to be executed, but fortunately, your mother threatened with her own life, so you were saved. But since then, your body has been weak and sickly, and I was seriously injured by that Heaven Ascension realm expert. The middle-aged man said. Tianyang stared at the middle-aged man. He unconsciously clenched his fists. He could feel the despair of the head of the Tian family when he was faced with a powerful enemy that he could not catch up to in his entire life. A Heaven Ascension realm expert could kill an unknown number of primordial transformation realm experts in one breath. And with a Heaven Ascension realm expert as her bodyguard, Xianyuan Qingming's strength was certainly not weak. An existence at that level actually fell in love with the head of the Tian family, who was not much stronger than an ant in the eyes of those big families. It was a miracle that the head of the Tian family did not die. If it wasn't for my bloodline's first atavism, when I was dying, bursting out the power of the immortal bloodline and saving my life, I'm afraid there would no longer be a Tian family in this world. The middle-aged man chuckled. At this time, an extremely mysterious fluctuation suddenly erupted from his body. The fluctuation was not strong, only at the peak of half-step Heaven Ascension realm. However, the cultivation was not the main point. The most important thing was that within this fluctuation, it was the aura of the immortal bloodline. The bloodline in Tianyang's body began to fluctuate slightly, but it was too weak. If Tianyang did not pay attention, it would be difficult to detect. At this time, Tianyang also noticed it. That ray of light that formed the head of the Tian family was rapidly weakening. Well, what I can leave now is almost finished. Younger, whether or not you have awakened your martial soul, whether or not you have awakened your immortal bloodline, it is not important. You are my son. Even if my son is crippled, I, Tian Taishu, can still support you. The head of the Tian family laughed heartily. Then, that ray of light disappeared. Tianyang knew that after leaving this letter, the head of the Tian family left and went to a place that no one knew. And Tianyang, looking at the letter that automatically turned into ashes after the image finished playing, clenched his fists. The obsession of the original owner of this body had dissipated, but a new obsession had appeared. So troublesome. I thought that the parents of this body were just ordinary cultivators. In the end, there was actually such a big matter. Tianyang clenched his fists, and the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. Immortal bloodline? Xianyuan family? Chapter 755. Whether it was the immortal bloodline or the Xianyuan family, they were too far away to grasp. Even the Tian family's head himself didn't know how to awaken his immortal bloodline. Tianyang naturally had no way to know. He was also immortal in his previous life, and the only thing that could be praised about him was his pure mortal bloodline. Now that he suddenly had an immortal bloodline shell, it was impossible for Tianyang to know how to awaken his immortal bloodline. Those who have the bloodline are awakened through some kind of ceremony. However, my Tian family has no such ceremony. Looking at the Tian family's head, it doesn't look like he awakened after he was almost chopped to death and did a lot of mysterious rituals. Tianyang rubbed his eyebrows and muttered. The immortal bloodline was a powerful bloodline inherited from the immemorial era, the immortal heavenly lord. If Tianyang could awaken it, his combat power would naturally soar in a short period of time. However, to awaken the immortal bloodline, it was easier said than done. Although the Tian families had relied on the immortal bloodline's inherited memory to give him a lot of information. However, it was all useless. Well, let's leave it to fate. Tianyang thought hard for a while and then put it down. The immortal bloodline was too illusory. The current him was still immortal bloodline. Wild demon region. Your Highness, 1 year's time is almost up. In the center, inside a palace, inside a huge mountain peak. A servant who looked extremely old said respectfully to the beautiful young lady in the distance. Hearing this, the beautiful young lady was stunned for a moment before nodding her head. On her face, there was a hint of a complicated look. 1 year's time was finally up. Father will definitely not let Master take me away so easily. Ling Yuhan frowned and said to herself. After a year of getting along, Ling Yuhan was also clear about the Demon Emperor's temperament. The nine-tailed Demon Empress was incomparably domineering. Even if the clan leaders of other clans that were not much weaker than the Nine-Tailed Fox clan were here, the nine-tailed Demon Empress was still domineering and did not allow anyone to oppose her. Back then, it was the nine-tailed Demon Emperor who had ordered them to bring Ling Yuhan back. The Purple King Sky and Purple Heavenly King had not dared to give up even when they were about to be beaten to death. From this, one could see how tyrannical the nine-tailed Demon Emperor was. Before Tianyang and Ziwang Tian left, they made a promise of a year. The nine-tailed Demon Emperor would definitely not let the matter rest. All right, I got it. You can leave now. Ling Yuhan waved her hand, a trace of worry on her face. Seeing this, the old servant bowed respectfully and retreated. Others might not know, but the old servant who had been watching Ling Yuhan's cultivation for a year was very clear. The princess usually kept a low profile. Apart from cultivating, she would lock herself in her palace to reminisce. Even a nine-tailed monster emperor did not know how her daughter's cultivation had progressed. However, the old servant was very clear. The current Ling Yuhan had already digested all the inherited memories from the second awakening of her bloodline. She could use the power of her bloodline freely. She could even use some of the powerful abilities unique to the God Spirit bloodline. Her martial spirit had also broken through to the terrifying level of the heaven rank. The old servant had lived for hundreds of years and had not seen many heaven rank martial spirits. Even a nine-tailed monster emperor did not have one. However, Ling Yuhan had one. Moreover, as the God Spirit bloodline strengthened, Ling Yuhan's martial spirit would definitely become stronger. At that time, perhaps even a nine-tailed monster emperor would not be Ling Yuhan's opponent. Princess Sai. Her cultivation has clearly reached the peak of the 8th level of the Sea of Soul Realm and is already comparable to the clan's elders. She could even easily defeat the two great princes of the Purple King Sky and Purple Heavenly King. But why didn't she make a move? If she did, she wouldn't have arranged for you to be alone on this mountain peak. The old servant sighed and felt that it was not worth it for Ling Yuhan. Was that human really worth the nine-tailed Fox Clan's princess doing this? The 1-year agreement is almost up. Ziyuhan, have you not thought it through? At this moment, an arrogant and domineering cold snort suddenly came from the horizon. A powerful bloodline pressure enveloped the entire mountain peak. The old servant's expression changed greatly. He could not bear it and fell to the ground. Demon Emperor. The old servant was dumbfounded. In the next moment, at the entrance of the palace, the figure of a tall, middle-aged man suddenly appeared. A head of purple and white hair spilled down to his waist like a waterfall. He was dressed in a black robe, but it did not cover his body. Instead, it made him look even more mysterious. His face was as exquisite and handsome as if it had been carved by the world's most powerful sculptor. In addition, the 9 tails behind him gave off traces of demon chi. It could be said that the world's most arrogant woman would bow down before this person's handsomeness. I've said it before. My surname is Ling, not Z. At this moment, an icy cold voice, which sounded as if it had come from the depths of hell, rang out. The old servant could not help but shiver and feel even more shocked. It had only been one sentence. One sentence had caused a spiritual king like him to feel such fear. Could it be that Her Highness the Imperial Princess's power is even greater than I had imagined? As the daughter of a nine-tailed demon emperor, if your surname isn't Z, what is your surname? The nine-tailed demon emperor's expression turned ugly. He had brought this daughter of his from the central region, which was thousands of miles away and filled with dangerous humans, back to the demon baron territory. In the end, he had only seen his daughter a few times throughout the entire year. Based on the nine-tailed demon emperor's arrogance and domineering nature, he could not accept this at all. No matter whose daughter I am, I, Ling Yuhan, will only have the surname Ling in this lifetime. Ling Yuhan's icy voice, which was as cold as the depths of hell, rang out once again. Hearing this, the nine-tailed demon emperor's expression suddenly became distorted. His black robes fluttered without any wind, and the nine-tailed demon emperor's aura of the heavenly ascension stage level 5 exploded. Humph! I know very well that the reason why you're treating me like this is because of that human boy named Tianyang, isn't it? Isn't he just the champion of the martial arts convention? How dare he say such arrogant words to the nine-tailed fox clan? A year has passed, and your cultivation has broken through by 1.5 levels. Your so-called master might still be in the same place. The nine-tailed demon emperor said angrily. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's expression suddenly changed, and her face turned completely cold. The nine-nether saint body, the nine-tailed sky moon fox, and the aura of the peak of the sea of Soul Realm suddenly exploded. The billowing cold air almost froze the entire mountain peak. You are not allowed to talk about my master like that. The door suddenly shattered, and Ling Yuhan's face, which was full of anger, appeared in front of the nine-tailed demon emperor. Hearing this, the nine-tailed demon emperor's face suddenly darkened, and then he flicked his sleeve. Humph, whether you say it or not, it will be a year in a few weeks. At that time, I would like to see how strong Tianyang is, the nine-tailed demon emperor said, and then he soared into the sky. By the way, the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan seems to have taken a liking to you. Soon, he will come to propose marriage, the nine-tailed demon emperor said, and then he disappeared. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's expression changed drastically. She gritted her teeth and looked into the distance. Chapter 756. In the Desolation Demonic region, the demonic beasts rose and fell. It's time for the 1-year agreement. Tianyang stood in the sky above the Desolation Demonic region, looking down at the multitude of living beings below. The aura of a 9th-level sea of Soul Realm was slowly released from his body, then retracted back into his body. It made Tianyang look like a mortal. However, how could a mortal stand in the sky for thousands of miles? Tianyang stepped on the void, slowly pacing. Every step he took seemed like a mortal's pace, but his figure strangely moved several li away. In just a few minutes, Tianyang walked from the edge of the Desolation Demonic region to its center. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan was located at the foot of the Nine-Tailed Sacred Mountain. After so many ups and downs, I still couldn't completely eliminate this clan. I even made the leader of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan a demonic emperor. The demonic beast clan that has been prosperous since ancient times is indeed extraordinary. Tianyang lifted his head and looked at the Nine-Tailed Sacred Mountain, which looked like a giant pillar connecting heaven and earth. He sensed the endless demonic aura coming from the Nine-Tailed Sacred Mountain and smiled faintly. At the foot of the mountain, 2 Dao Fire Realm Nine-Tailed Fox clan members looked at Tianyang with vigilance. This was the Nine-Tailed Sacred Mountain, the headquarters of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. As guards of the mountain, they didn't notice Tianyang's arrival at all. This was hard for them to accept. Who are you? One of the guards mustered up his courage and stepped forward, asking. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and chuckled. He looked at the towering sacred mountain and said in a clear voice, Nine-tailed Fox Clan, I, Tianyong, have come to fulfill the agreement. At first, his voice wasn't loud. Only the two guards at the foot of the mountain could hear it, causing them to be confused. However, as the sound waves spread, the voice strangely grew louder and louder. In the end, this short sentence sounded like thunder. Like a thunderclap from the ninth heaven, it spread throughout the entire nine-tailed sacred mountain. Even from 100 miles away, one could clearly hear the loud noise ringing in their ears. This is the Nine-Tailed Fox Clan? Agreement? What the hell? In the distance, several demons were slightly stunned as they looked in the direction of the nine-tailed sacred mountain. However, in the next moment, one of the demonic beasts reacted. Isn't that the human prodigy who beat up the two prodigies of the Purple King Heaven and the Purple King Heaven a year ago? Then, he asked our demon emperor's princess to come back and make a promise of a year. Counting carefully, it has indeed been a year. In other words, the human prodigy is here. One of the goblins said excitedly. Hearing this, the others' expressions changed and their faces darkened. It's him? Everyone in the demon tribe had heard of the great battle that had taken place a year ago. After all, the Nine-Tailed Fox Clan was the royal family of the demon tribe. As for the Purple King Sky and the Purple Sky King, they were ranked in the top 10 of the demon race's Heaven's Pride roll. But in the end, they were beaten up by the human race that they had always looked down on. Naturally, they could not accept this. Now, the one-year agreement had arrived, and Tianyong had actually arrived as promised. Go. He had go take a look. What kind of monster is the human prodigy? How could he defeat a prodigy of our demon race? In front of the nine-tailed sacred mountain, the two guards were stunned when they heard the words that exploded in their ears. Then, they became angry. So you're that human prodigy. How dare you attack the Nine-Tailed Fox Clan and behave so atrociously in front of the Nine-Tailed Sacred Mountain? Kid, how dare you? The two guards were enraged. Their true essence, which was at the peak of the third heaven of the Tao Fire Realm, was completed in an instant. The long spears in their hands suddenly pierced out, releasing waves of demonic power. Get lost. The two guards pierced out their long spears at the same time. The two waves of demonic power seemed to fuse together, erupting with a power that was even more powerful than pure superposition. Tianyang's expression was also slightly shocked. Then he chuckled and said, Twins, and they can even fuse demonic power? No wonder the nine-tailed sacred mountain handed over its sacred mountain to two Tao Fire Realm cultivators to guard. Not only are they confident in themselves, but they are also very confident in you. Tianyong smiled faintly, looking at the fierce spear light that was attacking him. Kid, you're too arrogant. Seeing this, the two guards' faces immediately darkened. Their figures instantly disappeared from the spot. Before the spear light that rushed out disappeared, they had already brandished their long spears and attacked. Silver Fox Lightning Strike. Red Fox Flame. The two guards roared at the same time. The long spears in their hands were instantly dyed silver white and crimson red, and they charged towards Tianyong. Coupled with the combined spear light from before, the combined attack of the two guards could even severely injure a second-level C of Soul Realm Cultivator if he was careless. I didn't expect that the two brothers Red Fox and Silver Fox would be the guards now. TSK, they're much stronger than a mere first-level C of Soul Realm Cultivator. Although these two are only at the peak of the third heaven of the Tao Fire Realm and haven't even stepped into the half-step C of Soul Realm. When the two brothers join forces, even a second-level C of Soul Realm Cultivator can only temporarily avoid them. This human race prodigy, although he could defeat Purple Sky King and Purple King Heaven, who knows what methods he used. This guy looks like he's only in his teens. He doesn't even have a trace of aura. It's absolutely impossible for him to block the Silver Fox and Red Fox brothers. The demons discussed. While at this time, the Red Fox and Silver Fox brothers' consecutive lightning-like attacks had already arrived. The two nine-tailed fox branch also revealed a trace of a smug smile. At such a close distance, with such high performance, in their opinion, Even a third-level Sea of Soul Realm expert would suffer a great loss. This human race youth, who looked at most 20 years old, was absolutely not their match. Innate bloodline connection. So it confused demonic power? Although it's relatively common, it's indeed quite special. Tianyang's indifferent voice sounded. Hearing that, the two guards could not help but be stunned. In the next moment, they saw it. Tianyang extended a finger. In the next moment, before the two brothers Red Fox and Silver Fox could react, the aura of a ninth-level Sea of Soul Realm suddenly erupted. Break! Tianyang gave a low roar. In the next moment, a powerful aura so terrifying that it could practically destroy everything was released. He did not execute any substantial attack, but merely gave a light roar. That series of countless attacks, as well as the lightning attack that the two brothers thought was the most perfect combination, shattered. Bang! A deafening loud noise sounded out. The two brothers spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily onto the ground, while Tianyang had an indifferent expression as he withdrew his finger. He completely ignored the surrounding demons who were shocked to the extreme and sucked in cold breaths incessantly. Clap, clap, clap. While at this time, a few claps sounded out. A handsome man with a head full of golden hair walked out from the nine-tailed holy mountain. Chapter 757. Not bad, not bad. When the golden-haired man walked out, Tianyang's face darkened slightly, and his lips curled into a smile. As expected, the two idiots, Purple Sky King and Purple Sky King, could not affect the nine-tailed Demon Emperor at all. The nine-tailed Demon Emperor probably did not care about the so-called agreement at all. If he wanted to go in and take Ling Yuhan away, it would not be so easy. At least, Tianyang could vaguely sense a trace of powerful primitive aura from the golden-haired handsome young man in front of him. It was as if the person in front of him had the primitive bloodline. You are indeed worthy of being chosen by the Empress. Your strength is indeed not weak. You killed the Silver Fox and Scarlet Fox brothers in seconds without using a single move. The golden-haired handsome young man chuckled and walked towards Tianyang. Thud! One of the golden-haired handsome young man's feet stepped on Scarlet Fox's chest. Thud! His other foot stepped on Silver Fox's lower abdomen. After that, the smile on his face did not change at all. He did not even look at Scarlet Fox and Silver Fox as he walked towards Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang's face darkened suddenly. Although Tianyang did not know Silver Fox and Scarlet Fox, he had a good impression of these two loyal fellows. After all, they were just attacking normally. Although Tianyang broke their attacks with a finger and made them vomit blood, it was only a simple chi backfire and did not cause any harm. However, this fellow, obviously, he did not show any mercy at all. It was as if these two guards were even more lowly than the stones on the ground. He stepped on them openly just like that. What are you doing? Tianyang said with an extremely cold expression. Hearing that, the golden-haired handsome young man was slightly stunned. Then he looked at Silver Fox and Scarlet Fox, who were severely injured and had many broken bones from being stepped on by him, and said with a chuckle, I'm just walking normally. I just picked two stepping stones that seem to be more comfortable. What's wrong? The golden-haired handsome young man said with a puzzled smile on his face. It was as if this was something natural. Hearing that, Tianyang's face darkened completely. The surrounding people also looked at the golden-haired handsome young man differently. However, when they saw his flame-like golden hair, they all felt a trace of fear and shut their mouths. Tianyang noticed this and looked at the golden-haired handsome young man in front of him. Let me introduce myself, the golden-haired handsome young man said. My father is the current patriarch of the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan. He's a LV3 reaching Heaven Realm expert whose strength is second only to the Demon Emperor in the entire desolate realm of monsters. His name is King Fiery Flame. I myself am the youngest person in the history of the Demon Clan to have reached the peak of half a step into the Heavenly Completion Realm. I'm only one step away from the Heavenly Completion Realm at the age of 138. Tianyang's expression was indifferent. So he was another son of an aristocratic family, reaching the peak of the Heavenly Ascension Realm at 138 years old? God knows how long it'll take for him to break through to the heavenly ascension realm. How dare he be so arrogant in front of him? Oh, Tianyong said indifferently. Then he took a step, bypassing Jin Yin and walking towards the nine-tailed Saint Mountain. If you're done, then get out of my way. I'm in a hurry. Tianyong seemed to really treat Jin Yin as air and simply bypassed him. Seeing this, Jin Yan's face twisted to the extreme. His hair burned like fire. He released the aura of the peak of the heavenly ascension realm and ruthlessly suppressed Tianyong. How dare you ignore me? Do you know why I walked out the nine-tailed Saint Mountain? Jin Yin snorted coldly. Tianyong's expression changed slightly. He automatically released the aura of the ninth level of the Sea of Soul realm and easily neutralized Jin Yan's aura of the peak of the heavenly ascension realm. He then turned his gaze towards Jin Yan. As the young master of the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan, I have the clan leader of the heavenly ascension realm as my backer. I'll definitely break through to the heavenly ascension realm in the future. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan and the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan are both overlords of the desolate demon region. Therefore, a marriage alliance between the two clans is the best choice. Today, I'm here to propose marriage to the nine-tailed demon emperor of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. My target is the princess of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, who just returned a year ago. Jin Yin mocked. The nine-tailed demon emperor didn't refuse. Tianyong's face turned ashen when he heard this. Then he suddenly raised his head and smiled faintly at the sky. It seems that the nine-tailed demon emperor really doesn't know what's good for her. Since you're Yuhan's father, I'll beat you half to death. Shameless boasting. Jin Yan's face was full of disdain. How dare a guy who wasn't even 1/6 of his age speak to the nine-tailed demon emperor like that? He must be so angry that he had no choice but to behave atrociously here. How dare you say such disrespectful words to the nine-tailed demon emperor at the foot of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's sacred mountain? That's a capital offense. If you kneel down and beg me to destroy your own cultivation, I can still ask the nine-tailed demon emperor to spare your life. Otherwise, you could just wait for your death. Jin Yin laughed heartily. Hearing this, Tianyong's face darkened. Tianyong glanced at Jin Yin coldly. His voice was extremely cold. You're very annoying. Then, Tianyong walked toward the nine-tailed sacred mountain without looking back. Jin Yin flew into a rage. The aura of the peak of the half-step ascension realm burst out and charged toward Tianyong. How dare you speak to me like that? You're courting death. Jin Yin roared. Demonic power surged out of his body. The upper-grade, Earth-class martial spirit, Nine-Headed Lion, was activated. An imperceptible smile appeared on his face. As long as he killed this guy, the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's royal princess would definitely give up. At that time, wouldn't she be at his mercy? Thinking of the beauty described by the servants, Jin Yin felt a burning sensation in his lower abdomen. The aura in his hands grew sharper. Low-grade heaven-class martial technique, Nine Spirits Yuan Heavenly Claw, demonic power surged out rapidly. Golden flames burned on Jin Yan's body. The aura of the peak of the half-step ascension realm was released. His golden hair soared into the sky like flames. A terrifying giant claw that could tear the world apart formed in Jin Yan's hands and charged toward Tianyong. Jin Yan's face turned ferocious. Kill him. Kill him. I told you, you're very annoying. Tianyong suddenly turned his head. His face was extremely cold. A sharp light flashed in his hand. The great void sword embryo appeared. The fifth sword of the sky, sword technique, boom. A sword light flashed. It was poignant but beautiful. After Tianyong made his move, he turned around and walked toward the nine-tailed sacred mountain. Bang! A huge body fell to the ground. The 9 lion heads rolled a few times on the ground before coming to a stop. Chapter 758. One slash, and Golden Blaze was dead. Once Golden Blaze died, he no longer had the strength to maintain his human form. Unlike most demons, he had both human and demon forms. The Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan had always thought highly of themselves and disdain to create a humanoid body for themselves. If it weren't for the convenience of moving around Nine-Tailed Sacred Mountain, Golden Flame wouldn't have even used his Zhen Yuan to create this illusion. Now that Golden Blaze was dead, the illusion was naturally powerless to continue, and his mountain-like body was exposed. Of course, he was dead. Pretty big. I wonder if he's tasty. Tianyang muttered to himself as he glanced at the mountain-like golden blaze on the ground. Then, with a flash of light, the great void sword embryo returned to his space bag. As for the nine-headed lion, Tianyang did not even bother to pay attention to it. He walked straight in a nine-tail sacred mountain. The surrounding people were also stunned for a full 10 minutes before they reacted and burst out screaming in disbelief. Golden Blaze is dead. What? Golden Blaze is dead? The Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor naturally received news of what happened at the entrance of Nine-Tail Sacred Mountain as soon as it happened. However, the usually calm and domineering Nine-Tail Demon Emperor's pupils shrunk to the size of needles as he roared in disbelief. Golden Blaze, the number one on the Demon Clan's prodigy roll, who even my son, Zi Tianwang, and Zi Wangtian could not defeat, is dead? He died at the hands of that arrogant human. The Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor roared in disbelief, his face revealing traces of shock. According to the information he had, Tianyang was only a few months away from turning 20 this year. He could barely be considered a youth now. However, Golden Blaze, the young master of the Golden Blaze Nine-Headed Lion clan, who was already over 100 years old and had reached the peak of Half-Step Ascension Realm, was killed by him. What kind of monster was this? Yes, the secret guard who came to report did not dare to speak. Although he was a half-step C of Soul Realm, he was still an ant in front of the Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor, who was already at level 5 of the Ascension Realm. Damn it, I can barely deal with the patriarch of the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan. However, even I have to be wary of the old ancestor of the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan. The reason why I allowed the Nine-Tailed Fox clan and the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan to form a marriage alliance was because of this patriarch of the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan. This human brat killed the main character of the marriage alliance as soon as he arrived. The nine-tailed monarch beast uttered a furious roar. Following this, she arrived at the Nine-Tailed Sacred Mountain with a flicker. At that moment, Tianyang, who was taking a stroll in the void, lifted his head and looked at the Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor as if he sensed something. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. So you couldn't help but show yourself so quickly. I thought I would have to cripple a few more of your Nine-Tailed Fox clan's elders before you would show yourself. A dignified demon emperor of a clan is actually so impatient. TSK. No wonder he's a demon scum. Tianyang shook his head and sighed. Only then did the Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor notice the fallen Nine-Tailed Foxes behind Tianyang. 18th Elder, 12th Elder, 13th Elder, Deacon's son, 7th Elder, 6th Elder. You actually... The Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor's pupils constricted to the extreme. Looking at the corpses of the Peak C of Soul Realm experts lying at Tianyang's feet, she roared in fury. These elders and deacons were all sent by her to stop Tianyang's people. In the end, she had just received news that Tianyang had entered the mountain, and these people who were not much weaker than Golden Flame were all defeated. Even those shadow guards who were extremely fast and had even more terrifying reflexes did not manage to deliver the news to her. As far as the eye could see, the number of demons that had fallen at Tianyang's feet was much more than what she had read out earlier. Almost every one of them had attacked Tianyang, a human who had suddenly appeared on the sacred mountain. Therefore, every one of them was taken care of by Tianyang within 3 seconds, except for the few Peak C of Soul Realm experts. If he did not kill them, it would be very troublesome. The Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor was so angry that she gritted her teeth. These people were all the pillars of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan now and in the future. Tianyang actually dared to attack them. However, this speed was too fast. She had just received the news, and in the next second, it was out of date. This human strength seemed to have far exceeded her expectations. Don't be so agitated. I didn't kill them. Tianyong smiled faintly. It was quite interesting to see a monster emperor flustered and exasperated. If I had to kill, I'd rather kill him than those people. Each of them is not high in status, yet they act so arrogant. I'm already giving you face by not killing them directly. Tianyong chuckled and stretched out his hand. A spatial light flashed. In the next moment, Tianwang, who was smiling awkwardly, appeared in Tianyong's hand. Brother Tianyong, don't do it. I ran away as soon as I saw you. I didn't do anything. Tianwang raised his hands and smiled as if he was begging for mercy. He had already noticed Tianyong when he first arrived at the foot of the nine-tailed Saint Mountain. Naturally, he also saw how Tianyong killed Golden Flame with a casual swing of his sword. Such terrifying strength made even him tremble in fear. Compared to a year ago, Tianyong was not just a little bit stronger. Heavenly King. Seeing this, the nine-tailed monster emperor's expression changed drastically. Her eyes were burning with anger. Tianyong, let go of Heavenly King. Otherwise, I'll hold you responsible. The nine-tailed monster emperor roared. The 9 fox tails behind her swayed rapidly, releasing the aura of a Heaven Ascension Stage 5. Seeing this, Tianyong's eyes narrowed slightly. Nine-tailed monster emperor, are you sure you want to fight? A dangerous light flashed in Tianyong's eyes. In the Earth Emperor's spiritual herb garden on Tianyong, Sanguinati's soul flame flickered, revealing a thirst for battle. Not long ago, a golden infant soul fruit had finally ripened, and Sanguinati could not wait to consume it. Up until now, the Blood Sword Emperor still hadn't completely refined and absorbed the golden infant soul fruit, but his strength had recovered to the 4th level of the Heaven Ascension stage. Sanguinati could even feel that his soul power was much stronger than in his previous life. If he could find a new body and recover his soul power, his strength would definitely surpass that of his previous life. His strength would definitely surpass that of his previous life, reaching at least Heaven Ascension Stage 6. Now, even if he were to face a Heaven Ascension Stage 5 nine-tailed monster emperor, he would not be afraid. Fight! Hearing this, the nine-tailed monster emperor was stunned. Then she laughed wildly. Ha ha! Fight? You're not even in the Heaven Ascension stage. How dare you say that to me? You're here for my daughter, right? If that's the case, I can give you a chance. You don't have to fight with me. The nine-tailed monster emperor laughed loudly, and there was a hint of mockery in her eyes. Oh, hearing this, Tianyong raised his eyebrows. Chapter 759. Illusory Realm of 9 Palaces. Hearing those words, Heavenly King Z, who was in Tianyong's hands, narrowed his eyes. He had forgotten that he was still a hostage. He said in disbelief, Father, you're asking him to challenge the illusory realm of 9 palaces? Why? The nine-tailed monster emperor looked at Tianyong coldly. You don't dare? Don't. Brother Tianyong, you can't agree to it. The illusory realm of 9 palaces has existed since the reconstruction of the nine-tailed fox clan. However, no one has been able to pass it for almost 10,000 years. Heavenly King Z struggled and said, The illusory realm of 9 palaces is the most powerful illusory realm of the nine-tailed fox clan. Even the weakest one can confuse an Ascension Realm expert. The most powerful one was left behind by the patriarch of the nine-tailed fox clan. Even my father might be lost in it if he enters it. If you go in, my sister will never be able to see you again. Heavenly King Z roared. The nine-tailed monster emperor's face turned cold. Shut up. The nine-tailed monster emperor pointed her finger and a ray of cold light shot out. It sealed Heavenly King Z's mouth and even blocked his soul. He could not send a message through his soul. Tianyong put Heavenly King Z down. Heavenly King Z was still gesticulating anxiously, trying to tell Tianyong not to go in. That's right. The illusory realm of 9 palaces is so powerful. No one from a nine-tailed fox clan has been able to pass it for almost 10,000 years. To be more precise, no one has been able to make it to the 6th palace in the past 10,000 years. The nine-tailed monster emperor said coldly. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. The illusory realm of 9 palaces was so powerful. I'm not talking about humans. I'm talking about all the living beings who have entered the illusory realm of 9 palaces. The illusory realm of 9 palaces has nothing to do with cultivation or soul power. It only considers your state of mind. If your state of mind is strong, even an ordinary person can enter the 3rd palace and beyond. If your state of mind is not strong, you might be eliminated in the 1st palace. The nine-tailed monster emperor said. Tianyang's expression changed when he heard that. The 9 palaces mirage was very similar to Emperor Taishu's 1,000-level heart-refining tower. However, some of the illusory realms in the Emperor Taishu's 1,000-level refining heart pagoda were simply too trashy. The 1,000-level refining heart pagoda was just to make up the numbers. In the end, it even joined the battle. This 9 palaces mirage was obviously much more powerful than the Emperor of Taishu's 1,000-level heart-refining tower. You are a human, not a demi-human. Those who are not of my race are bound to have different intentions. No matter how deep your relationship with her is, I cannot casually entrust my daughter to a stranger. So, if you want to take my daughter away, you have to go through the 9 palaces illusion. The nine-tailed monster emperor said calmly. A sharp glint flashed across her eyes, as though she was going to pierce through Tianyang's soul. Seeing this, Tianyang smiled calmly and met the 9-tailed monster lord's gaze fearlessly. Isn't it just 9 illusions? So what if I agree? 9 palaces illusion? You actually want Master to go through the 9 palaces fantasy realm? Are you crazy? In one of the palaces in the 9-tailed sacred mountain, Ling Yuhan stared in disbelief at Zi Tianwang and Zi Wang Tianwang, who both looked guilty. Hearing this, Zi Tianwang and Zi Wang Tianwang looked even more guilty. Sister, we are sorry, but this is Father's decision. We can't do anything about it. Moreover, Tianyang agreed without hesitation. Zi Tianwang sighed. Now, the 9 palaces fantasy realm that has not been opened for 600 years is about to be opened. It is impossible to stop it. We can only take one step at a time. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan fell silent. She knew Tianyang's character very well. Although he was never domineering, once he made a decision, he would not change it. Even if the 9-tailed monster emperor changed her mind and wanted Tianyang to take her away, Tianyang would have to try the 9 palaces fantasy realm. It was silly, but Ling Yuhan liked it this way. That's right. Sister, that Golden Flame 9-headed lion idiot from the Golden Flame 9-headed lion clan, the one who would rather die than take human form. He even wanted to propose marriage for you. Golden Flame is dead. Ziwan Tianwang said excitedly. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's heart skipped a beat. She lifted her head. Who could kill him in the Baron Demon territory? Isn't he afraid of the Golden Flame 9-headed lion? It's not anyone, it's Tianyang. Zi Tianwang grinned. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan trembled. Her eyes were wet. Human brat, after passing through this door, you will enter the strongest fantasy realm that no one in the 9-tailed fox clan has ever passed after the 6th palace, the 9 palaces fantasy realm. If you run away and give up now, I can still let you leave safely. However, if you go in, you might die in there if you're not careful. It is a test of one's state of mind, but it is not without danger, the 9-tailed monster emperor said. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. So what if it is dangerous? I have protected Yuhan so many times in the past. Don't tell me I can't protect myself now. All right, a monster emperor shouldn't talk so much nonsense. Tianyang smiled faintly. Hearing this, the 9-tailed monster emperor's face turned cold. Oof, I am reminding you out of goodwill, but you don't appreciate it. Forget it. Just as well. Let Yuhan see you die in there and give up completely. Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled. Looking at the purplish-white vortex in front of him, he muttered to himself. In the end, this guy is just a pitiful father who is afraid of losing his daughter. Forget it, I'll give him some face and not rush in too quickly. In the next instant, Tianyang stepped into the purplish-white vortex. Just as Tianyang disappeared without a trace, Ziwan Tian Wang, and Ziwan Tian rushed in with Ling Yuhan. "Father, where did Tianyang go?" Purple Heavenly King said, while panting heavily. From Ling Yuhan's residence to here, there was a distance of close to 1,000 miles, and they only used a few seconds, a few hundred miles in a second. Even those at the peak of the half-step ascension state like them would not be able to take it. Hearing this, Tianyang looked at Ling Yuhan, who was also gasping for breath, but still persisted in straightening his back to show his best side. A complicated look flashed across his eyes. Glancing at the 8 dim purple crystals above the purple-white vortex, he said, "That's right, I'm not sure. He should be in the first palace now. This is the 9 palaces illusion." Tianyang looked at the vast expanse of whiteness around him and muttered to himself. In the next instant, the vast expanse of whiteness around him suddenly changed into a different appearance. Tianyang was stunned for a moment before he reacted. There was a look of shock on his face. Chapter 760. How is this possible? Tianyang looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief and shock. Dark thunderclouds as deep as a bottomless abyss shrouded the entire continent. Thunder and lightning could be faintly seen dancing within them. The sea turned to dust. Even the East Sea, a place where countless races and forces gathered, began to tremble. Countless races prostrated themselves before the huge thunderclouds that covered the entire continent and expanded towards the entire world. Billowing pressure was released from the thunderclouds. That pressure seemed to be able to tear the world apart. Even the strongest person in the world couldn't help but tremble. The strongest person in the world today was undoubtedly the Tianji Sword Emperor, Tianyang. This is 10,000 years ago. I actually returned to 10,000 years ago. Tianyang was shocked. He was still very clear-headed. He was definitely in an illusion, and it was the illusion of the first palace of the 9 palaces illusion. But how did he simulate a scene from 10,000 years ago? No, this isn't just 10,000 years ago. This is when I had just broken through to the peak of the Sword Dao and reached the peak of the Heavenly Ascension realm. I was about to face Wu Zun's tribulation. Tianyang's expression suddenly changed. At this moment, a wild and unrestrained laughter came from the horizon. Is this the lightning tribulation that this world created for me? I'm afraid that even the primordial Emperor Shisu and the Crimson Dragon Wu Zun, the Tianwu Sword Emperor, and the Taishu Emperor are all inferior to me. In the middle of the thunderclouds, a terrifying figure laughed loudly. At this moment, Tianyang suddenly felt that his body was gradually becoming illusory. His entire body seemed to be unaffected by gravity as he flew towards the figure in the sky. In a few blinks of an eye, Tianyang had already arrived in front of that figure. He held the most special spiritual weapon of the world, the Tianshao sword, and wore a high-grade spiritual armor that wasn't weak. The aura of the peak of the Heavenly Ascension realm was released from his body. A trace of fluctuation that didn't belong to this world was emitted from the figure. Tianyang's expression changed slightly, revealing a trace of smile. Sure enough, this guy is me. In the next moment, Tianyang's illusory figure merged with the figure with the power of a peerless great emperor as one. At this moment, the abyss-like thunderclouds finally enveloped the entire world. Is the Tianji Sword Emperor finally going to break through this world? It's been 1,000 years. It's been 1,000 years, and no one has broken through to the heavenly completion state. Even the peak of the heavenly completion state hasn't appeared for 300 years. Tianji Sword Emperor is finally breaking through. One by one, figures appeared in the sky. They were all looking at the sky excitedly. Until now, they still did not know. This lightning cloud was already countless times larger than the countless heavenly completion stage, peak stage, Wu Zun's tribulation. The might of the tribulation, lightning brewing within, was similarly countless times greater. In the 3,000 domains of the continent, as well as in the various seas and deep seas, even the forces of small worlds, they all came out one after another to look at the Tianji Sword Emperor in the sky. The Tianji Sword Emperor had risen less than 1,000 years ago, but he had already established a great reputation in the hearts of the people of the continent. He had risen at the speed of light, fought against the demons, and became the only person at the peak of the heavenly completion state in 300 years. At the same time, he was also the only person in 1,000 years who had broken through to the Wu Zun state. As long as Tianyong took one more step, he would be able to step into the realm that no one had been able to step into in 1,000 years. The heavenly completion state is already considered a supreme existence in this world. I wonder what lies beyond the heavenly completion state. Tianyong spoke faintly, his voice melodious. At this moment, his eyes gradually became clear. His consciousness from 10,000 years in the future and the scene from 10,000 years ago merged together. I didn't expect that the first palace of the 9 palaces fantasy realm would play this trick, Tianyong muttered to himself in his heart. Then he raised his head and looked at the rolling thunder tribulation in the sky. It was a thundercloud that was strong enough to shatter a martial arts world. He sighed faintly in his heart. It was this very thunder tribulation that had caused his death. However, it was also this very thunder tribulation that had allowed him to reincarnate and restart his cultivation. He had risen rapidly at a terrifying speed that was far beyond his previous life. Moreover, his future was far brighter than that of his previous life. Come on! Tianyong raised his head and roared. The next moment, the whole world suddenly trembled. Everyone understood one thing at that moment. The Tianji Sword Emperor had crossed the tribulation. Boom, 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 boom. As if angered by Tianyong's arrogant roar, the terrifying thundercloud that was as dark as the abyss surged and let out the first roar. A black thunderbolt pierced through the void and charged fiercely toward Tianyong. Destructive divine thunder, you can't do anything to me now. Seeing this black thunderbolt, Tianyong smiled faintly. In the northern wilderness secret realm, he had encountered the destructive divine thunder for the first time in this life. He had used all his strength to block it. Now this level of destructive divine thunder could be destroyed with a wave of his hand. The Tianxiao, sword in his hand, slashed. Boom! The bolt of destructive lightning was shattered just like that. Boom! 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 The thundercloud was even angrier. After the first destructive divine thunder was shattered, it spewed out endless destructive divine thunder again. It turned into a thundercloud storm and swallowed Tianyong. In the distance, Sword Saint Zhou Xing's expression changed drastically. The Ice Emperor, the Black Heaven Saber Emperor, and the others were the same. This was just the beginning of the thundercloud, but they already felt that it was difficult to resist. How could it be? Damn it. Even though I already know, I still can't block it. Heavenly Sun continued to unleash sword techniques. Beams of sword light that were powerful enough to kill any enemy were unleashed, destroying wave after wave of destructive divine lightning. However, the endless destructive divine thunder surged out from the thundercloud. It was as if there was no end to it. Just as he destroyed one destructive divine thunder, another 10 appeared. Sky Sword Art, Sky Sword! Tianyong roared. The true essence in his body turned into endless sword radiance. The divine wilderness, sky, spiritual art was activated. Golden true essence flowed in his spiral meridians. Boom! An extremely terrifying sword strike that faintly contained a trace of the true will of the holy path suddenly slashed out. Boom! The entire thundercloud storm exploded. However, Tianyong's expression changed drastically when he saw this. This was because after the thundercloud storm formed by the destructive divine thunder, there were blood-red thunderbolts that were even more powerful than the destructive divine thunder. It wasn't easy for me to survive a little longer. In the end, I met an even stronger one. Tianyong said in disbelief. His previous sword had already surpassed what he had achieved in his previous life. However, he didn't expect that the destructive divine thunder wasn't the end of the civilization's destruction. Even Sword Saint Zhou Xing, the Ice Emperor, the Black Heaven Saber Emperor, and the East Sea's Old Dragon Sage were shocked. This blood-red thunderbolt. Chapter 761. Crimson Lightning. This was something that even Tianyong had not seen in his previous life. In his previous life, Tianyong had not even been able to withstand the previous thunderstorm and had died. Now, although this was the Nine Palaces mirage, Tianyong could still feel the difficulty of resisting the great civilization apocalypse. In his previous life, he had been able to withstand it for so long, not only because of his own strength, but also because of luck. Even the Tianji Sword Emperor, the strongest person in the Heaven Continent, could only rely on luck to withstand the great civilization apocalypse. This showed how powerful the great civilization apocalypse was. Damn it, I'm already injured. How can I withstand it? Tianyong stretched out his hand and took off the high-grade spiritual artifact armor that had been badly damaged in the previous battle and casually tossed it aside. He could already see that even a supreme-grade spiritual weapon would be useless in the Crimson Lightning, let alone a high-grade spiritual weapon. The Tianshao sword in his hand was about to be scrapped, and Tianyong himself. There was a huge bloody hole in his chest that had been blasted open by the annihilation lightning. Blood was faintly flowing out, and his internal organs had been bombarded into charcoal by the lightning. His face had long been stained red with blood. Apart from his four limbs that were still intact, the annihilation lightning had blasted a huge hole in every other place, including his head. It was simply wishful thinking to block the crimson lightning in such a state. This is the Nine Palaces mirage. I'm afraid if I die here, I'll die in the real world too. Tianyong looked around. The entire continent was filled with an aura of despair. It was said that the Nine Palaces of a Nine Palaces mirage were not arranged in order of strength, but were completely random. If one was lucky, they might be the weakest from the beginning. Even if they could not pass, they would still be able to get a good ranking. If one was unlucky, they might be in the Wuzun realm from the beginning. Tianyong was now certain that his luck must have been used up when he was reborn. This illusory realm was able to read the deepest memories in his heart, forming an illusory realm that was exactly the same as his previous life. Most likely, the person who created this illusory realm was not much weaker than the Divine Sky Marshal Honorable. However, even if I know that this mirage is fake, I can't help but fight with my life on the line. Tianyong smiled faintly. The divine wilderness sky spirit art in his body surged rapidly. In the next moment, the Tianshao sword that was almost scrapped in his hand suddenly burst out of sky, full of Xinguang. In his previous life, even if he was lucky enough to make it here, he might have already given up hope and died in the thunderstorm storm. However, at this moment, even if he died to die, he still had to fight. In his mind, there was naturally no divine sky martial honorable power, nor was there any sky-devouring secret skill. However, Sacred Marshal. Tianyong slowly opened his mouth. His face revealed a determined and resolute expression. The aura of the sacred martial realm flowed out from his body. If the big shots in the heavens saw this, they would definitely be shocked beyond words. This was because a peak heavenly completion realm, being able to comprehend the Tao of Wuzun, was already the limit. How could he possibly have the Tao of the sacred martial realm? However, the current Tianyong had grasped a trace of the power of the sacred martial realm. He even had the ability to perfectly unleash this power. 10,000 swords returned to origin. Tianyong roared. The Tianshao sword in his hand burst out the most powerful and terrifying Xinguang. In the distance, the faces of Sword Saint Zhou Xing, the Ice Emperor, and the Eastern Sea's old dragon sage froze, revealing looks of despair. They could all see that this was Tianyong's final move. Boom! The blood-red lightning also began to roar at this moment. It transformed into a blood-red dragon that could kill any beginner Wuzun and charge towards a sword. After the blood-red lightning, countless more blood-red lightning condensed and easily transformed into countless blood-red dragons. Come on! Seeing this, Tianyong smiled faintly and completely unleashed this move. Boom! A dazzling sword light covered the heavens and the earth. It made the sun and moon lose their light. It made the stars tremble, the mountains collapse, and the earth crack. It burned the sky and boiled the sea, and that figure also gradually disappeared within the sword light. No, in an instant, countless people on the continent roared. However, Tianyong was already unable to respond. The 10,000 swords in origin was powerful. It easily shattered the blood-red dragon. The power of the sacred martial realm sword principle was indeed not something that an ordinary blood-red dragon could contend against. However, the remaining blood-red dragon was not something that an ordinary sacred martial realm sword principle could destroy. Just as Tianyong's figure disappeared completely, a voice rang out. Disaster had descended. The lightning that tore apart the heavens and the earth descended. The moment the first lightning struck the ground, everyone on the continent realized that this was not the calamity of the Tianji Sword Emperor's Wuzun, but the calamity of the firmament world. However, it was a pity that everyone realized it too late. Houses and livestock were blasted into dust by the lightning. Even the Sea of Soul realm experts could not escape death. Even the most remote regions of the continent, the northern and southern wilderness, could not escape the destruction of their civilization. This was not a calamity that targeted a person, a country, or a realm. It was a calamity for the entire world, for the entire civilization. How could this be? Sword Saint Zhou Xing and the others were in disbelief as they roared furiously. The Ice Emperor immediately rushed out to resist, but Sword Saint Zhou Xing pulled him back. It's Tianyong. Tianyong delayed all of this. Otherwise, we will be dead by now. What we need to do is not to throw our lives away, but to preserve a trace of the world's heritage. Sword Saint Zhou Xing roared furiously. Hearing this, all the reaching heaven realm experts on the continent were stunned. Everyone understood. Yes, countless experts nodded in unison. They had given up their precious lives just to preserve a trace of the world's heritage, so that the world that had been saved by Tianyong could truly be saved. A strange and indescribable power appeared in the world. It seemed to have enveloped the entire Tianshao great world in no time. Everything called cultivation methods was erased by this power. Even the most powerful cultivation methods had most of their chapters erased, leaving behind incomplete chapters that could not be practiced. Mountains and rivers collapsed, the world changed, and everything fell silent. The blood of the reaching heaven realm experts spilled all over the continent, and the world was still destroyed by the destruction of its civilization. Only under the desperate efforts of the Tianji Sword Emperor and countless reaching heaven realm experts, there was a trace of the world's heritage that could be passed down. The world collapsed, and the entire space fell into darkness. This calamity would be known in the future as the destruction of civilization. And before that, the place where the Tianji Sword Emperor had fought a bloody battle. Chapter 762. Tianyong finally knew everything about the great destruction of civilization. 10,000 years ago, he was the main character. He died the moment the power of the great destruction of civilization was unleashed. 10,000 years later, he was both the main character and a bystander. When he broke the rules of his previous life and extended history, he was completely enlightened. When he died, it was this enlightenment that prevented him from following the rules of the Nine Palaces illusion and dying. Instead, he entered a deeper level of enlightenment. So, this is what the great destruction of civilization is like. Tianyong sat cross-legged in the void and muttered to himself. The Nine Palaces illusion was called the Nine Palaces, but in reality, there was never a fixed number. Although the Nine-Tailed Fox clan was extremely certain that the Nine Palaces illusion was formed by these 9 illusions, how could they know when they themselves had not completely passed the Nine Palaces illusion? Now, although Tianyong had only passed one of the palaces, he had already passed it. As the only person who had passed, Tianyong knew more about the Nine Palaces illusion than the Nine-Tailed Demon Emperor or even the entire Nine-Tailed Fox clan. If it was only the lightning tribulation, then it might be the rules of this world. However, the power that erodes all cultivation methods is definitely human. Tianyong's heart trembled. Although the Nine Palaces illusion was only an illusion, It had also reenacted the great destruction of civilization that happened 10,000 years ago, because the Nine Palaces illusion was not a combination of the nine strongest illusions. Instead, it was a combination of all the illusions recorded by the entire nine-tailed fox clan. For cultivators of Wu Zun's level and below, the Nine Palaces illusion was strong against the strong and weak against the weak. Tianyang's soul power was already close to Wu Zun's. Therefore, the illusions he encountered were naturally among the strongest. An illusory realm that was close to the level of a divine sky martial venerable was enough to pry into a portion of the heavenly sun's heart. In addition, the caster of the other illusory realms had also experienced the great destruction of civilizations. That was how the illusion was formed, which was enough to make everyone despair and collapse. Who wouldn't be sad when the entire world was destroyed? Their familiar cultivation resources were reduced to nothing. Their loved ones, partners, children, and friends were all reduced to ashes. Once one felt sorrow, the illusions would erupt and magnify the sorrow to the limit, causing the person who stepped into the illusions to fall into oblivion. This was the power of illusions. It was enough to control one's emotions. However, this time, the most powerful illusion of the Nine Palaces met Tianyang, an anomaly who had already died once. Therefore, Tianyang did not sink into the illusion. Instead, he gained enlightenment in the midst of the destruction of civilization. The great destruction of civilizations was indeed not a heavenly tribulation. No, it was a great tribulation that a certain terrifying existence used the heavenly Tao to destroy the world. Tianyang closed his eyes, and countless thoughts flashed through his mind. This might be the only complete image of the destruction of a civilization in this world, and it made him understand many things. Although his eyes were closed, a raging fire burned in Tianyang's heart. No matter who you are, I, Tianyang, will kill you even if I have to go to the ends of the earth. Tianyang roared. The next moment, in the depths of a Nine Palaces illusion, a terrifying light suddenly appeared. In the blink of an eye, it filled the entire Nine Palaces illusion. Outside the Nine Palaces illusion, Tianyang has been in there for 3 days. Although 3 days isn't too long, it's hard to guarantee his safety after such a huge change in the Nine Palaces illusion. Heavenly King Z frowned as he looked at the door of the Nine Palaces illusion that still showed no signs of opening. He raised his head and looked helplessly at the 9 purple crystals that had been completely destroyed 3 days ago. It was impossible to show the location of the heavenly Tao body. Just 6 hours after Tianyang entered, the purple crystals that had been intact and untouched for 10 years suddenly became chaotic. In the beginning, the 9 crystals lit up one by one, from 1 to 9, and then from 9 to 1. The cycle repeated, and it was impossible to pinpoint Tianyang's location. After a day, the 9 crystals were completely chaotic. Sometimes they lit up at the same time. Sometimes they all dimmed. Sometimes half of them lit up and half of them dimmed. It never stopped. And now, the 9 crystals lit up at the same time. Ever since they lit up, they didn't disappear for even a moment. Even a 9-tailed monster emperor couldn't understand what was wrong with the Nine Palaces illusion. She wanted to forcibly bring Tianyang out, but it was extremely difficult and dangerous. She was even repelled by a terrifying spiritual energy. Although the spiritual energy didn't target her and only repelled the 9-tailed monster emperor, the moment she was repelled, a trace of spiritual energy was brought out by the 9-tailed monster emperor. This made Heavenly King Z feel that if the spiritual energy targeted him, his godly soul would be crushed immediately. I don't believe it. How could Master? There must be something wrong with the 9 Palaces illusion. Ling Yuhan shook her head hard and said angrily. Ever since the 9 Palaces illusion changed, Ling Yuhan didn't move an inch, as if she was nailed to the spot. She had been guarding the spot for 3 days and 3 nights. Although 3 days and 3 nights wasn't a problem for a peak 8th level C of Soul Realm cultivator. However, as time passed, even Heavenly King Z, who was stronger than Ling Yuhan, didn't dare to say that he could hold on. His eyes were filled with worry. Right at this moment, the 9 purple crystals suddenly lit up again. Boom! Heavenly King Zi Wangtian, Ling Yuhan, and the 9-tailed monster emperor who had just entered were all dumbfounded. The 9 purple crystals exploded with a loud bang. The great destruction of civilization, the destruction of civilization, severing everything. This world should have died, but because of me, there's a chance of survival. There's still new life in destruction, but complete destruction will also bring about complete new life. Life and death come from the same source, just like the cycle of yin and yang. The great doubt doesn't stop, and life and death don't stop. Tianyang sat cross-legged in the void. The 9 palaces illusion had become a thing of the past. Under the powerful waves that constantly emanated from Tianyang's body, any illusory power that approached him would collapse. It would directly collapse and disappear. As Tianyang muttered these words to himself, his comprehension of the great path became even clearer and more thorough. If a martial honorable were to see this scene, he would definitely be dumbfounded and his face would be filled with shock. Although it was a little immature, the great Tao contained in each sentence was no weaker than the Saint Realm Sword Tao that Tianyang had comprehended in his previous life when he broke through the extreme of Sword Tao. In other words, this was already a Saint Tao. Sea of Soul Realm, dual Saint Tao. In all the worlds, no one could surpass him. Comprehension ends here. It's futile to continue like this. At this moment, Tianyang opened his eyes. 2 rays of light, one black and one white, flickered, then returned to silence. Tianyang stood up, and the aura on his body suddenly soared. The surrounding space cracked inch by inch. 9th level C of Soul Realm. Peak 9th level C of Soul Realm. Half-step Ascension Realm. Chapter 763. Half-step to the reaching Heaven Realm, the peak. It was only at this level that the speed of Heavenly Sun's breakthrough slowed down a little. However, if Tianyang hadn't tried his best to suppress it, Tianyang might have been able to step into the reaching Heaven Realm with the power of 2 holy paths. It was just that Tianyang didn't do it. Of the 2 holy paths he had comprehended, except for the sword principle of the Saint Realm, which was considered complete, the way of life and death was still far from complete. The reason he was able to break through was that he had witnessed the destruction of the civilization with his own eyes and removed the demonic barrier in his heart. That was why he could suddenly soar. If he really relied on the 2 holy paths that he hadn't fully comprehended to make a breakthrough, his foundation would definitely be unstable, and he wouldn't be able to exert the power of 2 holy paths even if he had the realm of 2 holy paths. However, the breakthrough of the heart test isn't high, but the power of the soul has greatly increased. Tianyang clenched his fists, and a strange feeling arose in his heart. He released his power of the soul, and in an instant, the endless illusions of the 9-tailed fox clan and the 9 palaces illusion were all under his control. Even the illusions at the level of Wuzun, which had almost killed him, were all under his control. The breakthrough of the state of mind directly led to the breakthrough of the power of the soul. The power of the soul was mysterious and illusory, but there were traces to follow. Even as the great emperor, Tianyang couldn't fully comprehend it. Perhaps even the existence of the Saint Realm couldn't see through the mystery of the soul. Therefore, Tianyang didn't know why his power of the soul had suddenly soared. However, Tianyang's power of the soul was needed now. It was comparable to Wuzun's. That was enough. The power of the soul at the level of Wuzun, if released in this Tianshao great world, except for some real powerful people, almost no one can resist it. It's just that. Tianyang looked at his palm and smiled bitterly. If I want to break the seal, the price I have to bear will be greater. Previously, when he had been at the peak of the Heaven Ascension realm, Tianyang had only needed to activate it a few times to be able to deal with it. Now that he had soared to the Wuzun realm, he would have to pay an even greater price to activate it again. Fortunately, the strength of my physical body has improved a lot. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to use my soul power. Tianyang smiled bitterly. Then, He looked at his surroundings. Countless illusory realms in the Nine Palaces' illusory realm trembled and prostrated themselves at Tianyang's feet. In the eyes of these illusory realms, Tianyang's state of mind was not something they could influence. As for Tianyang, if he wanted to, he could wipe them out with a wave of his hand. However, this was something that the Nine-Tailed Fox clan had painstakingly rebuilt after all. It was also the reason why Tianyang had broken through. Tianyang would not be so ungrateful. This Nine Palaces illusion is not bad. Although I don't understand illusion Dao, I know the array Dao. I'll give you the strongest defensive ultimate killing formation that I've comprehended. Tianyang smiled faintly. His genuine essence at the peak of the half-step heaven ascension realm gushed out, and the great void sword embryo appeared in his hand. Using the sword as a brush and the space as a disc, he quickly drew the formation. Wuzun Realm's soul power gushed out and shuttled through the void like a fish in water. The stronger one's soul power was the stronger one's array Dao and alchemy Dao cultivation would be. In his previous life, Tianyang had needed 3 or 5 months to set up the formation. At this moment, he had completed it in less than 3 days. Wuzun Realm and the peak of the Heaven Ascension Realm. It's really a qualitative change. In my previous life, if I wanted to draw this 6th order formation, the Azura World Annihilation God-Slaying formation, without a year of preparation and 3 months of drawing, it would have been impossible to complete it. Now, without any preparation, I've finished drawing it completely with genuine essence. Although it's much weaker than the Azura World Annihilation God-Slaying formation, which has sufficient materials and can be easily prepared, it's impossible for an ordinary LV5 of the Heaven Ascension realm to break it. Tianyang smiled faintly and withdrew his consciousness. Now, there's only a formation base here, and it could only be activated outside. Otherwise, the Nine Palaces illusion would be monopolized by Tianyang alone. Let's go. Tianyang looked back at the Nine Palaces illusion. His gaze paused on the only illusion that worked on him, and he smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, he opened a space door and walked out. According to the settings of the Nine Palaces illusion, it would only open when all 9 palaces were cleared or when a 9-tailed demon emperor made a move. However, Tianyang did not have either. The illusion did not even dare to approach him. So how could he clear the 9 palaces? As for the 9-tailed demon emperor, the last time the 9-tailed demon emperor made a move, she was directly swept away by Tianyang's soul power, which had just broken through. She was probably still recuperating. Tianyang's left leg stepped into the space door, and then he disappeared from the 9 palaces illusion. With your son's character, how dare he propose marriage to the 9-tailed fox clan? And the bride is my sister? I won't stand on ceremony with you. So what if you're the king of the Golden Flame, 9-headed lion clan? Your son dared to behave atrociously at the foot of the 9-tailed sacred mountain. Even if he is beaten to death, the 9-tailed fox clan will not care. Wangtian had the most explosive temper. He looked at the lofty Golden Flame, 9-headed lion, and roared angrily. Hearing that, the Golden Flame, 9-headed lion's eyes turned cold, revealing a cold light that did not match its blazing eyes. One of the lion heads suddenly opened its mouth. Roar! A huge flame pillar shot out from the lion head's mouth. In the next moment, it hit Wangtian's chest. Wangtian was blasted away, and blood spurted from his mouth. He was severely injured. Seeing that, the 9-tailed demon emperor's face changed. She hurriedly caught Wangtian and handed him over to Wangtian. Heavenly King, take care of your brother. I will deal with this, the 9-tailed demon emperor said. Wangtian nodded and brought Wangtian away. However, he still stood there. Patian, don't think that you can be arrogant just because you're the current demon emperor. In terms of foundation and strength, the Golden Flame 9-headed lion clan is still stronger than the 9-tailed fox clan. Previously, I gave you face and did not kill your son directly. But now, the Golden Flame 9-headed lion slowly opened its mouth. The lion head in the middle actually spoke in a human voice. It was a sinister voice. Quickly hand over the murderer of my son. Otherwise, the entire nine-tailed sacred mountain will be bathed in blood. The golden flame nine-headed lion said arrogantly, Zipatian, although I don't know why you are severely injured, you are indeed no match for me now. Therefore, I will definitely fulfill my promise. Hearing that, the nine-tailed demon emperor's face darkened. Hand over Tianyang? Not to mention that Tianyang had stepped into the Nine Palaces' illusory realm without hesitation. Even before this, when the nine-tailed demon emperor did not know Tianyang at all, he would not have done so. After all, Tianyang was the person his daughter loved the most. Wishful thinking. The nine-tailed demon emperor shouted coldly. Hearing that, the golden flame, nine-headed lion's face turned cold and attacked. Then, don't blame me for attacking. The aura of a peak LV3 Heavenly Completion Realm expert was released instantly. Chapter 764. Oh no! The nine-tailed Monster King's expression changed drastically. Demonic energy surged out of his body as he tried to block the golden flame, nine-headed lion. However, when he tried to pull Tianyang out by force, he was severely injured by an unknown soul power. He had yet to recover and could not even use 50% of his strength. How could he block the golden flame, nine-headed lion's attack in such a situation? The golden flame, nine-headed lion dared to provoke a Monster King at this time because he knew this. Zipatian, you've been the nine-tailed Monster King for long enough. It's time for you to step down. The nine lion heads of the golden flame, nine-headed lion had ferocious expressions on their faces. Golden flames began to burn as the nine lion heads roared at the same time. At the same time, the lion claws slashed towards the nine-tailed demon emperor with unparalleled might. Golden flame incinerate the heavens. The golden flame, nine-headed lion roared. A dazzling flame that seemed to be able to compete with the sun and moon soared into the sky. The nine-tailed Monster King's expression changed. This is the golden flame, nine-headed lion's natal lion fire. You've condensed the natal lion fire. That's right. It's my natal lion fire. With the natal lion fire, I'm not far from reaching LV4 Heaven Ascension Realm. Today, I'll use you as a sacrifice. The golden flame, nine-headed lion laughed loudly. Its terrifying lion claws came crashing down. Boom! Heaven and earth trembled. An earth-shattering earthquake seemed to have erupted on the nine-tailed sacred mountain. Countless mountains crumbled and collapsed. Countless palaces were destroyed. Some of the pure-blooded nine-tailed foxes were fine, as they were strong enough to survive. However, the branches of the nine-tailed fox clan were miserable. The nine-tailed sacred mountain was their everything. The collapse of the mountain range in a nine-tailed sacred mountain was enough to wipe out all their belongings. What was even more tragic was that many of the collapsed mountains hit the branches of the nine-tailed fox clan who did not manage to escape in time, killing them on the spot. Damn it! The nine-tailed Monster King spat out blood. Flames of anger burned in his eyes. His deep purple pupils turned into vertical slits as the nine tails behind him swayed rapidly. Low-grade heaven tier martial skill, purple flame heartbreaker. The nine-tailed monster emperor roared as the demonic energy in her body surged out. She disappeared from where she was and charged towards the golden flame, nine-headed lion. Seeing this, the golden flame, nine-headed lion's face darkened, then sneered. Purple fire heart destruction? If it was in the past, perhaps I would have run when I saw this move. But now, you're heavily injured and can't even use half of your strength. How powerful is the purple fire heart-shattering annihilation that he used? Break! The golden flame, nine-headed lion laughed disdainfully and struck out with its massive lion claws. Boom! Streams of life-origin lion fire burned, illuminating the entire nine-tailed sacred mountain. At the same time, an almost endless destructive aura was released, causing the entire desolate demon region to boil. The battle between the violent flame Lion King, who was at the peak of the third level of the Heaven Ascension Realm, and the nine-tailed demon emperor, who was at the fifth level of the Heaven Ascension Realm, was no different from a battle between two demon emperors in the past. No matter which side it was, they all had the power to become a demon emperor. This battle between two demon emperors naturally shocked the entire desolate demon region. The blazing Lion King is fighting with a nine-tailed monster emperor? What's going on? It seems like a week ago, the blazing Lion King's son, the young master of the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan, went to the nine-tailed sacred mountain to propose, but failed. When he returned home, he provoked an unknown almighty and was killed in the nine-tailed sacred mountain. That enraged the blazing Lion King. So the blazing Lion King came directly to the nine-tailed monster emperor and demanded the nine-tailed monster emperor to hand over the murderer. Someone dared to kill the young master of the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan? Who is he? Countless members of the demon tribe were in a heated discussion. A battle between two demon emperors was too terrifying. Even though there were only two of them, the destructive power that they could unleash was not any weaker than a battle that lasted for a long time. In fact, the destructive power of this one point was even more terrifying than what countless armies could cause. Ha ha! Zepatian, looks like you're not going to make it. You're injured so badly that you can't even defeat me. That's good. It's time for the nine-tailed fox clan to hand over the position of Demon Emperor. The Golden Flame, nine-headed lion, laughed maniacally in the sky. Hearing that, the nine-tailed monster emperor's face darkened. When she had become the Demon Emperor, the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan had been the first to support her. Now that she was severely injured and her combat power was not as strong as before, the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan could not wait to take advantage of her. How could it be so easy? Humph. Don't think that you can replace the nine-tailed fox clan just because I'm severely injured, the nine-tailed monster emperor said angrily. Beams of Heaven Ascension Stage LV5 Demon Emperor surged out and covered her body in the blink of an eye. The unique power of the pure-blooded nine-tailed fox clan was released. Seeing that, the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion's expression changed slightly. He stared at the nine-tailed monster emperor. However, as soon as he looked away, the nine-tailed monster emperor's figure disappeared. Then, a terrifying attack that almost crushed his head came from behind him. Damn it, so it was all an illusion that you were defeated by me. The Golden Flame, nine-headed lion, roared angrily. His natal lion fire burned fiercely as he attacked the attack from behind him. The attack was neutralized immediately. However, the nine-tailed monster emperor was not angry at all. Instead, she secretly circulated her demon emperor's demon emperor and waited for the next opportunity. Luckily, I didn't use much of my genuine core strength earlier. I still have energy left to use this Dharma treasure that's specially made to counter illusions. The Golden Flame, nine-headed lion, suddenly smiled cruelly. The space in his hand moved, and a strange stone that looked like an eye appeared in his hand. Seeing that, all the demon clans in the barren demon realm were shocked. The Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan's treasure, the illusion breaker eye. You actually brought it out? The nine-tailed monster emperor's shocked voice was heard. The Golden Flame, nine-headed lion laughed loudly. This time, I have come prepared. Illusion breaker eye, break for me. The Golden Flame, nine-headed lion roared. The eye of illusion breaker in its hand suddenly released divine light that filled the sky. In an instant, the illusion breaker power was released, and the surrounding space cracked like a broken mirror. In the next moment, puff! The nine-tailed monster emperor spat out a mouthful of blood as she was sent flying. Her aura dropped to the bottom. The illusion was the foundation of the nine-tailed monster emperor's Tao attainment. Now that her strongest illusion had been destroyed, the nine-tailed monster emperor was severely injured. Seeing this, the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion, let out a hideous smile. Zepatian, your position as the monster emperor will be given to me. Where did the nine lion heads come from? Before the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion could finish speaking, a figure suddenly appeared in a flash and caught the nine-tailed monster royal who was flying backward. He smiled faintly. I haven't eaten anything for a week. I'm hungry too. Chapter 765. One steamed, one braised, and the rest to be decided. Looking at the young man in the sky, whose identity and cultivation base they couldn't identify, all the demons in the desolate realm of demons couldn't help but be dumbfounded. The so-called 9 lion heads in front of him were none other than the blazing Lion King, who was at the peak of the 3rd level of the Heavenly Ascension realm and had already defeated the current Demon Emperor. Although he had yet to take over the position of Monster Emperor, he had the strength of a Monster Emperor. Talking about a Monster Emperor like that was akin to asking for death. You're finally out? You didn't die in a 9 Palaces illusion. At this moment, the 9-tailed Monster Emperor raised her head and looked at Heavenly Sun with a dumbfounded expression. Tianyong smiled faintly. I'm lucky to have survived. Heavenly King Z, take good care of your father. I'll be back soon. In the next moment, a gentle force was released from Tianyong's hand. The 9-tailed Monster Emperor, who was severely injured and could not take any damage, was delivered to Heavenly King Z unscathed. Seeing this, the 9-tailed Monster Emperor was even more shocked. Even the Eastern Sea Dragon King, the Golden Flame, 9-headed Lion Clan's patriarch, the great elder of the ancient shrine, and the Western region Buddha could not control his vital energy. These people were the most powerful people in the Tianshao Great World. However, in the 9-tailed Monster Emperor's eyes, they were not even as good as Tianyong. Moreover, after going through the 9 Palaces illusion, the 9-tailed Monster Emperor felt that Tianyong had an ethereal aura, as if he had transcended the world. Could this guy have passed the 9 Palaces illusion? The 9-tailed Monster Emperor was shocked. At this moment, Tianyong had already flown to the Golden Flame 9-headed lion. It's you. You were the one who killed my son. At this moment, the Golden Flame 9-headed lion finally reacted. It looked at Heavenly Sun furiously and roared. The only information Golden Flame had left before he died was this person. This was the man who had killed Jin Yin, the man he had doted on for over 100 years, the man who ranked first on the Demon Clan's Heaven's Pride roll. If it wasn't for him, Golden Flame might have already returned with a marriage proposal, and the Golden Flame 9-headed lion race could have taken over the 9-tailed fox race. In this way, the throne would still fall into the hands of the Golden Flame 9-headed lion tribe. However, it was precisely because of Tianyong. All of this had been destroyed. Damn you! You actually dare to appear in front of me. Innate lion fire, burn for me! The Golden Flame 9-headed lion roared madly. The fury in its eyes seemed to be able to swallow the entire world. Its mane stood upright like a burning flame. In the next moment, the Golden Flame 9-headed lion disappeared from where it was and charged towards Tianyong. Ha! Tianyong smiled faintly. Looking at the 9-headed Golden Flame lion, which was only a hair's breadth away from breaking through to Heaven Ascension Stage 4, he simply punched out. Scram! Boom! The 9-headed Golden Flame lion's claws and Tianyong's fist collided violently. Ripples spread out and flames rose to the sky. Not a trace of energy leaked out, and all of it hit the opponent's body. However, Tianyong's expression didn't change at all. He didn't move at all. Rays of light flowed on the surface of Tianyong's body and easily neutralized the 9-headed Golden Flame lion's force. As for the 9-headed Golden Flame lion, its 9 lion heads all twisted. Then it suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and its mountain-like body flew backward. What? Seeing this, not only the 9-tailed Monster Emperor, but also the other powerful figures of the monster race who were secretly observing, as well as the entire monster race in the Barren Territory, were all shocked. How could this be? The Blazing Lion King had easily beaten up the 9-tailed Monster Emperor, even severely injuring her. If the mysterious young man hadn't suddenly appeared, the 9-tailed Monster Emperor would have been killed by the Blazing Lion King. And now, this young man had only used one punch to send the Blazing Lion King flying? Damn it! The 9-headed Golden Flame lion didn't expect to be sent flying by this young man's punch, and its face instantly darkened. How dare you sneak an attack on me when I'm not paying attention? Kid, how dare you? However, sneak attacks are just small tricks. Now, I'll show you what real power is. The nine-headed golden flame lion said arrogantly. In the next moment, its body disappeared and turned into a series of afterimages. Countless afterimages attacked together and surrounded Tianyang. This is the most powerful martial skill of the nine-headed golden flame lion tribe. Thousand Shadow Kill. The blazing Lion King is serious this time. It actually used such a powerful martial skill on a young man. A monster race member exclaimed. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Thousand Shadow Kill? TSK, TSK. It's a pity that it's not a doppelganger martial skill. Otherwise, I could eat more. As for now, Tianyang shook his head. Wu Zun's soul power was released, and the surrounding afterimages disappeared in Tianyang's soul sea. The only thing that appeared was the real, nine-headed, golden flame lion. Ha ha ha! My original body is hidden among the countless afterimages, and each afterimage has its own attacking power. When the time comes, the countless afterimages will appear, and I'll be in the middle of the attack. Let's see how this human dies. As a human, it's fine if you don't hide in the central region, but you actually dare to come to the desolate monster race. The nine-headed golden flame lion laughed maniacally. At this moment, Tianyang moved. A black light flashed in his hand. It wasn't the great void sword embryo that appeared, but the Styx River sword that he hadn't used in a long time. Styx River sword technique, final move. Tianyang roared, and the true yuan of a half-step to heaven ascension realm gushed out. The divine, desolate sky spiritual art circulated crazily, and a majestic true yuan gushed out of his boundless spirit sea. The Styx River sword technique was a low-grade heaven-class sword technique. Although its attacking power was good, it wasn't too strong for Tianyang. Therefore, only the final move would be useful. Soul-shattering nine nether. Spirit heaven's wrath. Tianyang roared, and in the next moment, a terrifying soul power was released from Tianyang's body. The moment they felt the soul power, the entire desolate monster race fell silent. The nine-headed golden flame lion opened its eyes wide, and its body seemed to slow down. The nine-tailed monster emperor was in disbelief. He recognized that this soul power was the same one that had severely injured him a few days ago. The expressions of the monster race experts hiding in the dark changed drastically, and they trembled. Countless monster race experts couldn't move, and their eyes were filled with fear. One sword to suppress an entire region. Boom! In the end, the silence was broken by the sharp whistling of the sword light. The Styx River sword technique's final move was a soul attack. Together with the spirit heaven's wrath, even Tianyang could release an unparalleled attack. Now, with Tianyang's Wu Zun realm soul power, pung bang, pung 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 pung, countless afterimages disappeared in an instant. The nine-headed golden flame lion's expression changed drastically. Just as it was about to escape, the sword light was faster than it. It penetrated its defense and entered its spirit sea. Wu Zun's soul power exploded. The nine-headed golden flame lion clan's patriarch was at the peak of LV3 Heaven Ascension Realm, the fiery Lion King. Chapter 766. The fiery flaming Lion King was dead. Moreover, its soul was shattered. There was no chance of revival. If the immortal bloodline was cultivated to the highest level, it was possible to survive even if one's soul was shattered. Unfortunately, the golden flame, nine-headed lion bloodline did not have that ability. Even if it did, it would be useless in front of a soul attack that was a whole level higher. What? Just as the huge body of the golden flame, nine-headed lion was about to fall, a shrill cry rang out in the hearts of every demon clan member. The fiery flaming Lion King was infamous in the monster area of the Barren Territory, the Monster Clan, and even the 3,000 territories of the Sky Continent. Countless people had died at the hands of the fiery flaming Lion King. Even many monsters have been killed by the fiery flaming Lion King. Therefore, the entire continent knew of the fiery flaming Lion King's name. And the result? The fiery flaming Lion King was infamous in the Sky Continent. Its name could stop children from crying at night. Just like that, it turned into a corpse without a soul. Not bad. Soul attacks are indeed reliable. Although its soul is shattered and its life force is fading rapidly, it's still good for cooking. Seeing the fiery flaming Lion King's mountain-like body, Tianyang nodded with satisfaction. He swung his stick's sword casually. Instantly, the golden flame, 9-headed Lion King's 9 lion heads, and its body broke. The 9 lion heads rolled on the ground and rolled a few times before stopping. Seeing this, the hearts of countless demons trembled. The golden flame, 9-headed Lion King, was already dead. Why did Tianyang still want cut off its head? Could it be that this human youth, who had not revealed any of his strength, not only wanted to kill the fiery flaming Lion King, he also wanted to whip its corpse? Although the remaining flesh and blood is not as good as the lion heads, it's still a great medicine for flesh and blood. I can refine it and strengthen my body. Tianyang clicked his tongue in admiration. Almost every part of a strong man in the reaching heaven state was a treasure. Take the golden flame, 9-headed lion, for example. Its head could be used to make helmets, tusks, bone swords, bone blades, and so on. Even if the lion's skin was simply tanned and made into leather armor, it still had great defensive power. It was not much weaker than middle-grade spiritual weapons, not to mention the flesh and blood of the golden flame, 9-headed lion that had condensed the essence of its body. The 9-headed golden flame lion was an expert at the peak of the 3rd level of the heavenly completion realm. Its essence was either condensed in its flesh or bones. Coincidentally, these 2 items were now in Tianyang's hands. If this flesh and blood was refined into a medicinal pill, even if no other medicinal ingredients were added, and it was divided into tens of millions of portions, one could instantly achieve a perfect body refinement with a chi and blood of 490 feet. Perfect body refinement was something that even some of the Almighties could not achieve. A single pill could create tens of millions of Almighties. Just thinking about it was enough to make one tremble in fear. Tens of millions of perfect body refinement, although it was only a pseudo-perfect body refinement, was still extremely powerful. If it was controlled by an ordinary country, that country would be able to wipe out an entire realm. If it was cultivated by a powerful force, it might even be able to create an invincible army in a few decades. Of course, it was not that easy to absorb the flesh and blood of a peak 3rd level of the heavenly completion realm. Even if it was refined into tens of millions of medicinal pills, it would still be considered powerful if it could be absorbed by a few 100,000 pills. Moreover, a perfect body refinement achieved by relying on the flesh and blood of a precious medicine was naturally far inferior to a true perfect body refinement. It was also not as good as Tianyang's true perfect body refinement. However, it was enough to tempt the others. Come if you don't want to die. At this moment, Tianyang suddenly looked around at the crowd and smiled faintly. In his hand, the true flames of destruction, which he had just merged not long ago and had yet to truly use in battle, burned. It released a terrifying aura of destruction that swept through the entire 9-tailed sacred mountain. Feeling the aura of destruction, the people who had wanted to snatch the flesh and blood of the golden flame, 9-headed lion, all became cowards. It was not that easy to snatch food from the mouth of a tiger. Moreover, this tiger had just killed the king of all beasts in their group of lambs. At least you know what's good for you. Seeing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. The true flames of destruction flew out. The powerful aura of destruction almost destroyed the last bit of water vapor in the golden flame, 9-headed lion's body. The entire corpse of the golden flame, 9-headed lion shriveled up. Then a huge block of ice froze it. Tianyang casually waved his hand, and the mountain-like corpse disappeared into a space bag. Seeing this, countless people sighed. That was the flesh and blood of a peak 3rd level of the heavenly completion realm. Compared to ordinary medicinal pills, it was much stronger. However, it was a pity that he was not fated to have such a thing. Tianyang, how did you become so strong? At this moment, the 9-tailed monster emperor walked over. She looked at the head of the blazing Lion King that was still lying beside her with a complicated expression. In the eyes of the nine-tailed monster emperor, the changes in Tianyang's body were simply unbelievable. Tianyang's cultivation was needless to say. Previously, his aura was so restrained that it was as if he was an ordinary person. She could not see his cultivation at all. Now, he seemed to have completely become an ordinary person. His aura was restrained and did not release any light. At first glance, people would let down their guard. However, the nine-tailed monster emperor knew that if this was the case, that person would only end up like the blazing Lion King. In just a week, Tianyang had undergone such a huge change. Even though the nine-tailed monster emperor had lived for a long time and seen many things, she could not figure out what had happened to Tianyang. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. The opportunity in the Nine Palaces illusion. Hearing this, the nine-tailed monster emperor smiled bitterly. This was nonsense. If it was not the Nine Palaces illusion, could it be an epiphany? An epiphany was a mysterious state that ordinary people would not encounter even once in their lives. How could you be so lucky as to encounter it? Knowing that Tianyang did not want to talk about it, the nine-tailed monster emperor kept quiet and looked at the head of the blazing Lion King. Speaking of which, why did you leave the head outside after keeping the body of the blazing Lion King? Are you going to let the blazing Lion King be exposed to the sun for 3 days and 3 nights? The nine-tailed monster emperor frowned. If that was the case, the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion tribe would definitely be furious. At that time, even the Golden Flame ancestor would not be able to handle it. Exposed to the sun? I'm so bored that my balls hurt. Purple King Sky, come and help me. Hearing this, Tianyang curled his lips and shook his head. A black light flashed in his hand, and the Xianming fire cauldron appeared in his hand. This is... The nine-tailed monster emperor's eyes narrowed as she looked at the Xianming fire cauldron. However, before she could speak, Tianyang shouted. Chapter 767. Lion's Head is a feast. Zi Tianwang, who had been called over, was stunned. Zi Wang Tian was stunned. All the surrounding demons were stunned. Even the nine-tailed demon emperor was stunned. Only Ling Yuhan, who was extremely familiar with the heavenly sun, chuckled softly. His figure flashed as he directly went to take it. There was no need for too many words. Even if they hadn't seen each other for a year, one sentence was all that was needed to reconnect with each other. What did you say? You're keeping this lion's head so that you can eat it. The nine-tailed monster emperor finally came to her senses. She was dumbfounded. Audacious. If it was exposed to the sun for 3 days and 3 nights, the Golden Flame Patriarch would attack in anger. If he ate it directly, who knew what the enraged Golden Flame Patriarch would do? The Golden Flame Patriarch was the most powerful demon in the present age. Even a nine-tailed monster emperor did not dare to provoke him. What else could it be? If the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion's head wasn't big enough, its corpse would have been gone too. Tianyang gave the nine-tailed monster emperor a strange look. At this moment, Ling Yuhan had brought all the things Tianyang needed to the Xianming fire cauldron. Master, should we braise or steam first? Or make soup first? Ling Yuhan giggled. She was not at all moved by the fact that the thing that was about to be made into a dish was an elite at the peak of LV3 Heaven Ascension Realm. Braise, Tianyang said decisively. Then, Tianyang swung his sword and cut off a huge lion's head. Burning with the true flames of destruction, he completed all the preparations easily. Then, he threw it into the Xianming fire cauldron. The true flames of destruction burned fiercely. In the Xianming fire cauldron, the nine-tailed fox clan's precious sauces merged with the lion's head. Not long after, a wave of meat fragrance that made one feel relaxed and happy came out from within the dark nether flame cauldron. As the fragrance of steamed, braised, stir-fried, and fried meat wafted out, the entire wasteland demon realm was in an uproar. This guy actually cooked the Raging Flame Lion King. And it smells so good. What should I do? I suddenly feel like eating the Raging Flame Lion King. Am I going to be turned into dregs by the Golden Flame, nine-headed lions? A demon's hands trembled as he stared at the Xianming fire cauldron that was constantly emitting various fragrances. He didn't even realize that his saliva was dripping all over the floor. Probably. I should be the same as you. The hands of the demon beside him were also trembling. He wanted to take a step forward, but he didn't dare. This was the head of the violent Flame Lion King, the patriarch of the Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion clan, an expert at the peak of LV3 of the Heavenly Ascension state. Who would dare to eat it? Even if someone dared to eat it, they wouldn't dare. Even if they were the infamous black-white double fiends of the Wasteland's demon domain, they were still the same. I don't care anymore. With the speed of the black-white double ghosts, why would we be afraid of the Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion clan? The Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion is busy being hunted down by the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. How would it have the time to care about us? Sister Go, among the black-white double ghosts, a demon in a black robe clenched his teeth. Demonic power gushed out, and the swift Eagle Martin's speed instantly exploded to the extreme. Just a little bit, not even a piece of meat. Even if it was just a piece of meat, it would be fine. If they went, they would regret it for 3 years. If they didn't, they would regret it for the rest of their lives. If they missed such a delicacy, who knew how many lifetimes they would have to live before they could encounter it again? Ah, yes. The white-robed swift Eagle Martin seemed to have only just reacted. His peak LV8C of Soul Realm demonic power burst out, and he instantly disappeared from where he stood. At this moment, the black-white double ghost was only a foot away from the lid of the Xianming fire cauldron. An inch, a centimeter. Why are there still people fighting for food? Such poor quality. At this moment, a nightmarish voice rang out beside the black demon's ears. The marten fur on the black demon's body instantly stood up, and a trace of incomparably terrifying premonition of danger rushed into his heart. Damn it, it's that human demon who killed the patriarch of the Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion clan. But just a little bit more, and he could take away the thing inside. The black demon hesitated for a moment, then clenched his teeth and stretched out his hand. You're still not running? Seeing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and looked at the swift Eagle Martin strangely. With a wave of his hand, the dragon power of the divine dragon was released, and the suppression of the divine dragon bloodline was released. Boom! The whole world seemed to tremble violently at this moment. The terrifying bloodline suppression that could suppress the entire desolate demon region directly pressed down on the black demon. Even the white demon, who had rushed up, paled. He actually couldn't bear it, and fell to the ground with a bang. The face of the nine-tailed demon emperor changed as she looked at Heavenly Sun in disbelief. As for the purple Heavenly King and purple Heavenly King, they knelt down immediately. Looking around, a large group of demon race beings were kneeling down as well. In the demon race, bloodline was respected. Why did the Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion clan want to take away Ling Yuhan at all costs? It was because of Ling Yuhan's nine-tailed moon fox bloodline, which was known as the God's bloodline. If the Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion could obtain this bloodline, his strength would definitely rise to another level. At the same time, although the divine dragon blood essence that Tianyang had refined was not of the same level as the nine-tailed moon fox bloodline, it was similar to the nine-tailed moon fox bloodline in front of these demons. They couldn't resist at all. This is the dragon bloodline. It's much stronger than the Dragon King, and it might not be weaker than the old Dragon King of the EC Dragon Palace. Who is this Tianyang? The nine-tailed demon emperor was shocked. She had thought that the strength that Tianyang had displayed when he killed the blazing Lion King was Tianyang's limit. She didn't expect Tianyang to be so strong and have a bloodline that was not weaker than the old Dragon King's. In addition to his true essence, physical strength, and sword Dao, the nine-tailed demon emperor, who thought that she had seen through Tianyang, was confused again. In her eyes, Tianyang was shrouded in a layer of fog. Even if she widened her eyes, she couldn't see through him at all. You are the black and white double demons that run rampant in the wasteland demon realm and occasionally cause trouble in the west of the mainland. Looking at the two swift eagle martens closest to the Xianming fire cauldron, Tianyang raised an eyebrow. Yes, sir, please give us some meat scraps. then we will definitely retreat." The black and white double demons nodded and looked at Tianyang with fear in their eyes. Tianyang didn't comment. "It doesn't matter if you give it to me or not. If I want you to retreat, you have to retreat. However, if the nine-tailed fox bloodline is finished and there is still some left, I can give it to you." Then Tianyang turned around and looked at the remaining 3 lion heads. He ordered Purple Heavenly King, "Bring another pot. Bring me another big wok." As for the remaining 3, Chapter 768. At the foot of the nine-tailed sacred mountain, countless demons were holding bowls of meat soup that were so clear that the bottom of the soup could be seen, with only a few colors that were barely distinguishable to the naked eye. Of course, they weren't angry, but moved. Is the nine-tailed monster emperor being merciful? She used so many rare herbs to make this soup. What a waste, but why is it so delicious? Waste. Waste. This is a blatant waste. We must resist this kind of wasteful behavior that doesn't maximize the medicinal properties of herbs. Lord Nine-Tailed Fox, please give me another bowl. I've decided. From now on, I'll be the guardian of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. As long as I have a bowl of this soup every month, no, every year, I'll be a member of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. Countless monster spirits howled at the sky as they slurped up the soup in their bowls. By the side, Heavenly Sun looked at the actions of the demon race and smiled gently. He was the top pill martial artist on the continent, a supreme pill Tao practitioner who'd rarely appeared in the history of the Tianshao Great World. How could he waste medicinal herbs? The nine-tailed sacred mountain had suffered too much damage this time. If they didn't have a panacea, most of the nine-tailed foxes wouldn't be able to survive. That was why the nine-tailed monster emperor had given Tianyang most of the low-grade herbs in her treasury. Tianyang didn't disappoint. He easily utilized the herbs to their fullest potential and made something that wasn't quite a pill, but was even more powerful than a pill. Lion's head soup. By the way, the twin ghosts of black and white haven't finished breaking through yet. I'm starting to regret using them as lab rats. Tianyang glanced at the twin ghosts of black and white who were sitting cross-legged next to him, their faces resolute as they madly absorbed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in preparation for their breakthrough. He hadn't been sure how strong the peak third-level ingress lion's head was, so he'd used these 2 guys as a test subject. Each of them had a piece of meat the size of a fist. Although Tianyang had been very careful with his calculations, he'd still underestimated the strength of the ingress lion's head. After eating, the twin ghosts of black and white immediately sat down cross-legged and prepared to break through. "Fine, I still have a lot of them anyway," Tianyang muttered. He still had the golden flame, 9-headed lion's meat in his spatial bag, which was enough to fill up the treasury of a mortal kingdom. He guessed that it wouldn't be any worse than the lion's head. On the other side, Zetian Wang finished the meat soup in his bowl in one gulp. Then, he glanced at Tianyang and hesitated to speak. He was too embarrassed to tell Tianyang that lion's head wasn't made from lion's head. The Golden Flame, 9-headed lion clan. Unlike the joyous scene at the foot of the 9-tailed holy mountain, the atmosphere in the Golden Flame, 9-headed lion clan was tense. Can anyone tell me why? In just 1 week, my Golden Flame, 9-headed lion clan not only lost a young master who ranked first on a Monster Clan Genius list, but also a clan leader who was capable of ascending to the position of Monster Emperor. Even the ultimate treasure of the Golden Flame, 9-headed lions, the illusion breaker Eye, is gone. In the hall, an old man with a pale face glared angrily at the others in the hall. In front of him were 2 broken soul tablets. One had been broken 7 days ago, and the other had just been broken. The young master went to the 9-tailed holy mountain to propose marriage, but he failed. Instead, he stirred up trouble there and was killed by a mysterious powerhouse of unknown origin. As for the clan leader, not long ago, the clan leader went to the 9-tailed holy mountain to kill the 9-tailed monster emperor with the illusion breaker Eye, but he's dead. The old man's eyes widened in anger as he glared at the person who made the report. His aura of a 6-stage ascension realm instantly erupted. Sensing the aura, the person's expression changed drastically, and he hastily retreated. However, before he could retreat, he was sent flying by the aura. Boom! A huge hole appeared in one of the walls of the hall. Around the hole was a circle of blood. It was a ghastly sight. As for that person, it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. I've been receiving the emissary from the ancient shrine for the past few days, so I didn't pay attention to you. Now you've caused such a huge commotion. The young master has been killed. The clan leader has been killed. Will I, the patriarch, be killed as well? The old man let out a furious roar as flames burst out from his body. The golden flames were so pure that it felt like the entire hall was going to be burned into ashes. Seeing this, the expressions of the golden flame, nine-headed lion clan's upper echelons changed drastically. They trembled as they looked at the furious old man. If the old man really wanted to make a move, these so-called powerhouses who could throw their weight around outside wouldn't be able to last more than a breath of time. Patriarch Golden Flame, please wait. It's already happened. Even if you kill them all, it won't make any difference. At this moment, a strange and sinister voice suddenly rang out. The old man's expression changed drastically when he heard this, and he turned his head to look in the direction of the voice. A silhouette walked out from the wall and slowly appeared before the crowd. So it's the emissary from the ancient shrine. This is now an internal matter of the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan. If it's possible, you can leave now, and I'll let bygones be bygones. The old man said with some fear. The ancient shrine was the head of the human tribe's martial holy lands. Even the Nine-Heaven Palace, the Scarlet Flame sect, and the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan had to prostrate themselves before them. Although it was only an emissary who had come, he didn't dare to offend them. If the ancient shrine was angered, the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan would definitely suffer the consequences. Internal matter? I don't think so. Hearing this, the emissary smiled sinisterly. A true origin imprint appeared in his hand, and he picked it up. After seeing this enemy of the ancient shrine, Patriarch Golden Flame, do you still think this is an internal matter of the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan? The emissary smiled sinisterly. Seeing this, the old man's eyes narrowed. This is the murderer who killed my great-grandson and great-great-grandson. Although I don't know how strong you are now, the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan's revenge won't be weak. Right now, the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan only has one ancestor left. As for you, you've killed the two strongest direct descendants of the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan's ancestor. The Golden Flame Patriarch won't let this go. The nine-tailed monster king looked at Tianyang and said solemnly, the Golden Flame Patriarch is someone that even I can't defeat. If you leave the Wasteland Demon region now, I can still make some arrangements so that they won't be able to find you. However, if you stay here, you will definitely be attacked. At that time, even I won't be able to protect you. The nine-tailed monster king said. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. The nine-tailed monster king looked extremely domineering, but in reality, he was just a clumsy father. Previously, when he tried to snatch his daughter away, the monster king couldn't wait to cut him into pieces. Now that his daughter didn't need to snatch him away and could run away, his attitude changed completely. Love me, love my dog. She treated Tianyang like a son-in-law. It's fine. Although Tianyang saw through it, he didn't say it out loud. Instead, he smiled faintly. Chapter 769. Greetings, great elder of the ancient shrine. Within the Golden Flame, nine-headed lion clan, Patriarch Golden Flame led the other upper echelons of the clan to respectfully greet the figure. Hearing this, the figure nodded slightly. Right now, I can only project one mark. When I reach you, my strength is about the same as yours, only at the 6th tier of the Heaven Ascension stage. No need to be so polite. Get up. The person's tone was calm, but there was a hint of unquestionable arrogance. Ancestor Golden Flame nodded respectfully, not daring to reply. Although this projection's strength was indeed similar to his own, it was still extremely powerful. However, the true body behind the projection was an existence that even he had to look up to. How had the ancient shrine become the leader of the holy lands of martial arts? This person's contribution was indispensable. The ancient shrine had always been mysterious. In the ancient times, it had been very famous in the entire sky continent. Today, it had developed into the most powerful martial saint in the martial saint lands. Even excluding the elusive home master of the ancient shrine, who might not be seen even once in a few years, the Great Elder was enough to shock countless experts. With a cultivation of LV7 of the Heaven Ascension realm, even the sect masters of the Ninth Heaven Palace and the Scarlet Flame sect were no match for him. Such a person could make the entire heaven continent tremble with a stomp of his foot. Although the person in front of him was only a projection that could last for 3 days at most and only had about 70% of the real body's battle strength, Ancestor Golden Flame was still respectful and did not dare to be negligent. Emissary, you said that Tianyang, who killed Ku Aoyang and took away Wu Zun's secret in Swordstar City, is in the Savage Demon Zone? At this moment, a faint voice came from the Great Elder of the ancient shrine. His voice was ethereal and difficult to find, as if it came from all directions. Ancestor Golden Flame was shocked. The emissary seemed to be used to it and replied respectfully, "Yes, Lord Great Elder, Tianyang is now in the Savage Demon Zone, in the Nine-Tailed Fox Clan's Nine-Tailed Sacred Mountain. The reason why Ancestor Golden Flame is here is because Tianyang killed the young master and patriarch of the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion Clan. Ancestor Golden Flame is about to attack him." The emissary said. The Great Elder of the ancient shrine raised his eyebrows and looked at Ancestor Golden Flame. The Savage Demon Zone is your territory. You actually had your direct descendant killed in your territory? If I don't avenge this, I swear I won't be a demon. Ancestor Golden Flame, Nine-Tailed, Sacred Mountain, Nine-Tailed, Sacred Mountain. The entire mountain range of the Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion Clan was trembling slightly. Even if an LV6 Heaven Ascension expert leaked a trace of his true yuan, the entire mountain range would tremble. Humph! This Tianyang also killed Gu Aoyang, a disciple of the ancient god temple, and took away an opportunity from us. The ancient god temple must kill this man. The Great Elder of the ancient shrine seemed to recall something when he heard that. His face darkened as he said, "That's right." Hearing this, Golden Flame Ancestor was stunned and lifted his head in disbelief. This heavenly son was actually so audacious? The emissary had said that there was a grudge between Tianyang and the ancient shrine. Ancestor Golden Flame, Nine-Tailed, Sacred Mountain 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 Nine-Tailed, Sacred Mountain. But now, Ku Aoyang, a genius disciple of the ancient shrine, had been killed. An opportunity that would anger even the Great Elder of the ancient shrine had been evaded. Humph! Not only did you offend the Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion Clan, but you also dared to treat the ancient shrine this way. Now, the strongest human force and the strongest demon force have their eyes on you. Tianyang, I'll let you live one more day. You'll die in one day. Ancestor Golden Flame's eyes flashed as he roared in his heart. Tianyang didn't know what had happened in the Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion Clan. He didn't expect his trip to the Wild Demon region to coincide with the time when the emissary from the ancient shrine went to the Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion Clan for a meeting. Neither the ancient shrine nor the Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion Clan was easy to deal with. Tianyang found it difficult to deal with one of them. Now there were two of them. Let's see how long it takes. Tianyang didn't care. He looked at the nine-tailed monster emperor, who was looking at the hot elixir in her hand. I say, as a monster emperor, it's understandable for you to be cautious. But you don't have to hesitate for so long. I made an elixir with your herbs in front of you. You don't believe me? Tianyang curled his lips and said, this elixir was called the Life and Death Elixir. It was the most powerful healing elixir that Tianyang could make at the moment. As for elixirs, Tianyang had not been able to refine them in his previous life. It was only because he had obtained the Myriad Elixir Codex that he had the recipe, coupled with the true destruction flames and the strength of his martial honorable realm soul. He had been able to successfully refine them. Otherwise, it would be difficult to make the Life and Death Elixir, even with the help of the sole power of the peak of the reaching heaven realm. It wouldn't be as easy as it was now. No, of course I believe you, but the nine-tailed monster emperor looked at the life and death elixir in her hand in disbelief. She swallowed her saliva and said slowly, "Did you spend half a day making this elixir? You made a genuine sixth-grade elixir in less than half a day. Even if you started making elixirs in your mother's womb, it's impossible." The nine-tailed monster emperor exclaimed. Even though she had seen a lot, she was still completely shocked. A sixth-grade elixir. A reaching heaven realm elixir. 10,000 years ago, those who could make a sixth-grade elixir were definitely alchemy experts among alchemy experts. And those who could make a sixth-grade elixir at the peak could be called alchemy supremes. Tianyang was just a half-step reaching heaven realm peak, and a half-step reaching heaven realm peak less than 20 years old. But in the end, the nine-tailed monster emperor saw this half-step reaching heaven realm peak less than 20 years old refine a sixth-grade elixir. The alchemy expert 10,000 years ago was now alchemy supremes. This kid is actually alchemy supremes. The nine-tailed monster emperor was dumbfounded, her face full of disbelief. 20 years old. Cultivation, half-step reaching heaven realm peak. Even 100 golden flames of the monster race prodigy roll combined couldn't compare to him. Strength, killing golden flames, and instantly killing the blazing Lion King. Although she didn't know what method he used, this strength was already terrifying enough. Physical strength, to be able to withstand the blazing Lion King's attack without being at a disadvantage, was obviously not weak. Sword Dao unknown. Alchemy supremes, alchemy supremes. If all of these were given individually to an old man who looked 70 or 80 years old, but was actually in his 80s, the nine-tailed monster emperor might not say anything. But all of this happened to a 20-year-old youth. All right, hurry up and swallow it to recover your strength. At this moment, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Looking out of the window, his gaze seemed to penetrate 10,000 miles of the void. In the distance, in the darkness where the morning sun couldn't shine, 3 figures stood in the air, looking at the nine-tailed sacred mountain in the distance with indifferent eyes. The 3 of them were Golden Flame's nine-headed lion clan, ancestor Golden Flames, Ancient Shrine, Grand Elder, Ancient Shrine, Emissary, and Tianyang's gaze slowly moved up, clearly seeing the faces of these 3 people. At the same time, he also met one of them. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Chapter 770. At the center of the 3, the first elder's face suddenly changed. He looked into the distance, and a trace of shock appeared on his face. What was that just now? The great elder of the ancient shrine was shocked. He didn't even realize that when he said that, his fingers and even his voice began to tremble slightly. Hearing this, the 2 Heaven Ascension stage powerhouses at the side were instantly stunned. Following the first elder's gaze, they only saw a vast expanse of whiteness, as well as the nine-tailed sacred mountain faintly discernible in the distant morning mist. "Great Elder, what's wrong?" the emissary of the ancient shrine asked, puzzled. The great elder of the ancient shrine trembled and shook his head. That was probably an illusion. How could there be an almighty existence in this world who could make his soul tremble with just one look? That kind of existence was no longer suppressed by this world. They were even rejected by this world and had broken through to become a celestial being. No, let's continue. The great elder of the ancient shrine said. His face returned to its usual indifference, but the fear in his eyes was still flickering. Interesting. Tianyang slowly withdrew his gaze and looked at the 3 people in the sky. He suddenly smiled faintly. He didn't expect that he would be able to discover the enemy with a casual glance. Moreover, it seemed that he had frightened one of them. The ancient shrine had always been mysterious. There were very few disciples in the Heaven Continent. The last time Tianyang had met Ku Aoyang, there had been a special reason for that. Therefore, Tianyang didn't realize that the old man who had been so frightened by him was the great elder of the ancient shrine, a famous expert in the Heaven Continent. The one on the far left should be the Golden Flame ancestor of the Golden Flame nine-headed lion clan. As for the other 2, I don't know them. Tianyong muttered to himself. But they're dressed in the same style. They should be from the same faction. TSK. I didn't expect that the Golden Flame ancestor would ask for help. Tianyong originally thought that the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan would rather spend a lot of effort than transform into a human being. He thought that the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan would be so arrogant as to seek death alone. However, despite his arrogance, Forefather Golden Flame was still quite capable since he was able to live for several thousand years. If it weren't for the fact that I have to watch over Yuhan's cheapskate father to recover, I would have charged over right now. Tianyong sighed as he glanced at the nine-tailed monster emperor who had consumed the life and death reversal elixir and was recovering rapidly. This guy is really a burden. Although the life and death reincarnation pill was a grade 6 pill, it was easy to refine as a healing pill. In addition, although the nine-tailed monster emperor had been severely injured, she still had the strength of a reaching heaven state. It would only take her a few hours to refine a life and death elixir. The effects of the life and death revolving elixir slowly spread throughout the nine-tailed monster royal's body. Even her soul, which was an ethereal thing, began to recover. Supreme Master of Alchemy, the nine-tailed monarch beast who had just woken up glanced at Tianyong with a single word in her mind. "You're finally awake?" At this moment, Tianyong looked up at the dusky sky outside and stood up. Although the nine-tailed monster emperor did not understand what was going on, she also stood up and said, "Why is it only the two of us now? We're the Purple King Sky and the Purple King Sky. They went to help you deal with the large group of demons who were clamoring to become the nine-tailed fox clan's vassals after eating the meat soup. They don't have time to care about you. Besides, what you need to do now is not to care about your descendants." Tianyong said indifferently. A sharp light flashed in his eyes and shot toward the sky. As if it could pierce through everything, Tianyong's gaze ignored all obstacles and landed directly on Forefather Golden Flame and the other two. The nine-tailed monster emperor followed Tianyong's gaze, and her expression changed instantly. "That's Forefather Golden Flame and the people from the ancient shrine? Damn it, how can these people react so quickly?" The nine-tailed monster emperor's expression darkened. She had never expected Forefather Golden Flame to react so quickly. Last time, when Golden Flame was killed, the Violent Flame Lion King took a week to react. This time, the Violent Flame Lion King was killed in less than a day, and Golden Flame Ancestor was already here. And he had brought two helpers from the ancient shrine with him? The ancient shrine? So those two reaching heaven states are from the ancient shrine. No wonder their clothes look familiar. Tianyong raised his eyebrows slightly. If that's the case, then those two fellows are enemies and not friends. When returning from the East Sea Dragon Palace, Tianyong had met Ku Aoyong, a disciple of the ancient shrine who wanted to steal the secret of the Sword Star from Sword Star City. Tianyong was not naive enough to believe that the ancient shrine would be so magnanimous as to let go of their disciple's death and the secret they wanted. Revenge would come sooner or later. Now it had come. "Let's go." At this moment, Tianyong said calmly. Then he turned his eyes away and operated his genuine vitality at the peak of the half-reaching heaven state. The void-stepping secret skill was released. The void-stepping secret skill had been upgraded countless times. It had reached the highest level. In terms of speed, even if the nine-tailed monster emperor was twice as fast, Tianyong would still be able to compete with her. The nine-tailed monster emperor was surprised. "Where are we going?" "To kill people. 10,000 miles away." The Golden Flame Forefather and the first elder of the ancient shrine suddenly changed their expressions. "They found us," the Golden Flame Forefather said seriously. The first elder of the ancient shrine nodded, his face gloomy. He had planned to launch a surprise attack to kill the nine-tailed monster emperor, then find Tianyong and cut him into pieces. But now that the nine-tailed monster emperor had found them, she must be on guard. It was impossible to launch a surprise attack now. If the nine-tailed monster emperor activated the protective formation, they might not be able to break it even if they joined hands. let alone find the nine-tailed monster emperor and Tianyang and kill them. Damn it, we were too careless. The first elder of the ancient shrine's face darkened. The emissary of the ancient shrine, next to him, suddenly changed his expression and looked around in a panic. "Who's there? Emissary, what happened?" said the great elder of the ancient shrine. The emissary of the ancient shrine had the most powerful perception technique. Even the great elder of the ancient shrine might not be able to compare to it. Now that the emissary of the ancient shrine's expression had suddenly changed, it was not without reason. The golden flame forefather next to him suddenly changed his expression and looked in the direction of the nine-tailed Saint Mountain. Nothing happened. At this moment, a faint sneer came from the sky. The three of them looked up, and their pupils shrank. Unbeknownst to them, two people had already appeared above their heads. Boom! Boom! At this moment, a series of sonic booms could be heard. "This guy's just looking for us." Tianyang smiled. Chapter 771. Tianyang, the nine-tailed monster emperor. The first elder of ancient god temple and ancestor golden flame both screamed. Then they disappeared from where they were, retreating dozens of miles away. The emissary of the ancient god temple didn't react until ancestor golden flame and the first elder of the ancient god temple left. His cultivation was only at LV4 of the Heaven Ascension realm, not much different from the Blazing Lion King. Even forefather golden flame, who was at LV6 of the Heaven Ascension realm, and the projection of the ancient shrine grand elder, who was at the same level, had retreated. However, even though they had retreated so far away, their expressions were still extremely gloomy, and they looked at Tianyang and the emissary in silence for a long time. The great elder of the ancient god temple didn't even notice that there was such a person above his head. Although he was only a projection, he still had the sole perception of an LV7 Heaven Ascension realm expert, but he hadn't sensed anything at all. If the emissary's expression hadn't changed drastically, and Tianyang hadn't spoken, he might still be chatting under the other's feet. Forefather Golden Flame's thoughts were much simpler. When had the nine-tailed monster emperor become so strong? How could she suddenly appear above my head? TSK, don't retreat so far away. We're not demons who commit murder, arson, and plunder. What's there to be afraid of? Seeing the actions of the Golden Flame ancestor and the ancient shrine elder, Tianyang couldn't help but laugh. Was he that scary? Even these great beings who stood at the pinnacle of the continent's pyramid were so scared of him? Humph! The only response to Tianyang was a cold snort from Forefather Golden Flame. As for the ancient shrine grand elder, although he didn't say anything, his eyes were cold and sinister. You didn't commit arson, or plunder, but how many people have you killed since you entered the Central Region? The Demon Blade Sect, the Purple Sun Sect, the Heavenly Demon Cult, Heavenly Ean Mountain, and many other powerful geniuses from other factions. Haven't you killed them all without restraint? Which of the various major forces that have been unknown to the world and whose name had shaken the continent had not been killed by him? This guy was a true murderous demon king. Of course, the great elder of the ancient god hall did not care about the other forces, but since they dared to kill his disciples, then go to hell. The emissary of the ancient god temple suddenly roared, and the vital essence of the fourth tier of the Heaven Ascension stage surged out of his body. The next moment, a strange black airflow erupted from the emissary's body. Then, the emissary of the ancient god temple waved his sleeve, and his face turned pale. At the same time, countless black-robed skeletons suddenly appeared. Like an army, they were organized in an orderly manner. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. This is the legendary army of refined corpses. Tianyang was slightly surprised. Each and every one of these skeletons had an aura above the 5th level of Sea of Soul Realm, and as far as the eye could see, there were at least tens of thousands of skeletons. That's right, at least you have some knowledge. This is the legendary perfect army that requires the extraction of souls in order to refine, the corpse refining army. Hearing this, the emissary of the ancient god temple laughed and looked at Tianyang mockingly. For this army of refined corpses, I have killed many spiritual king experts, even those at the peak of the half-step to heaven ascension stage. Today, you will become a member of my army of refined corpses." The emissary of the ancient god temple laughed loudly. The next moment, the vital essence in his hand circulated, and the eyes of the tens of thousands of spiritual king skeletons suddenly flashed, and a soul fire burned. However, unlike Sanguinati's soul fire, which was the real soul, the soul fire of these skeletons was, in fact, just an actuator. It was just a consciousness to kill. Refined corpse army, kill. The emissary of the ancient god temple laughed loudly. Seeing this, the nine-tailed monster emperor changed her expression and looked at Tianyang. "Do you need me to take action?" Hearing this, Tianyang shook his head and looked at the great elder of the ancient god temple and ancestor Golden Flame, who were watching with cold faces. "No need. This is just a test," Tianyang said indifferently. A black light flashed in his hand, and the stick sword, a medium-grade spiritual weapon, appeared in his hand. Seeing this, Ancestor Golden Flame and the great elder of the ancient god temple changed their expressions, and the emissary of the ancient god temple even showed a mocking expression. "A medium-grade spiritual weapon? You are indeed an inferior human without any power. You are almost in the heaven ascension stage, but you can only use such a medium-grade spiritual weapon. You want to use a medium-grade spiritual weapon to resist my army of refined corpses? Humph! My army of refined corpses can smash your rubbish medium-grade spiritual weapon into pieces with a single attack." Refined corpse army, roar of refined corpses. The emissary of the ancient god temple laughed energetically. Following this order, countless refined corpses showed a hint of blood-red light. It had been too long since they had moved, and too long since they had drunk blood. The refined corpse army was a strange technique created by a powerful demonic cultivator in ancient times. Not only did they need to extract souls to refine corpses, but they also needed to be fed fresh blood regularly. The stronger the refined corpses were, the more fresh blood they needed. Looking at the situation, the emissary of the ancient god temple had killed countless people in order to cultivate this army of refined corpses. Although it is called the #1 sacred land of martial arts, in fact, what it does is no different from the heavenly Yin Mountain. Tianyang said indifferently, seeing the blood-red light condensing and the army of refined corpses about to attack at the same time. The stick sword in his hand flashed. "Humph! How can the heavenly Yin Mountain be compared to the ancient god temple? Boy, before you die, let me tell you something. In this world, strength is the right path. Now, die under the roar of the refined corpses." The emissary of the ancient god temple laughed wildly and pointed a finger. Roar! Countless refined corpses let out a deafening roar at this moment, and in the next moment, a blood-red pillar of chaotic soul light condensed. The roar of the refined corpses specifically targets the soul. As long as he is hit by this move, this human boy soul will definitely shatter and become a member of my refined corpse army. The emissary of the ancient god temple laughed maniacally. Thinking that a prodigy like Tianyang was about to become a part of his power, he could not help but laugh out loud. At this moment, Tianyang looked at the pillar of chaotic soul light and sighed softly. "Who gave you the confidence?" In the next moment, his soul power surged. Soul shattering 9 nether soul. "Heaven's wrath!" Tianyang shouted coldly and slashed out with the stick sword in his hand. A dazzling radiance almost caused the already dark sky to fall into hell. Countless gloomy auras were released, causing many people's faces to change drastically. The martial honorable realm's spiritual energy that had submitted to Su Mo had exploded. The expressions of the ancient God Temple Grand Elder and Patriarch Golden Flame instantly changed drastically. Their soul power trembled wildly, as if they were about to bow down and worship the young man in front of them. What is going on?" The ancient God Temple Grand Elder roared crazily. At this moment, that sword light had already charged into the refined corpse army. No! The emissary of the ancient god temple roared crazily. The so-called roar of the refined corpses was useless in front of soul-shattering nine nether and nether soul heaven's fury. The moment it came into contact with the sword light, it collapsed. As for the refined corpse army of more than 10,000, their soul fires were easily extinguished, and under the sword light, they turned into bone dust one by one. In a short moment, the refined corpse army was completely annihilated. Chapter 772. What? Seeing Tianyang annihilate the emissary's refined corpse army with one stroke, not only the emissary himself, but also the Golden Flame Ancestor, the Great Elder, and the Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor were shocked. They all knew that Tianyang was very strong and had killed the famous Fiery Fire Lion King with one stroke. But, apart from the Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor, who had witnessed it with her own eyes, the Golden Flame, Nine-Headed Lion King's people didn't really believe it. When Tianyang showed that he was at the peak of the half-reaching heaven realm, they didn't believe it at all. Reaching the peak of the half-reaching heaven realm at the age of 20 was indeed a genius among geniuses. But the Fiery Fire Lion King was an expert at the peak of LV3 of the heavenly realm. It was only one step away from LV4 of the heavenly realm. It was impossible for a peak of the half-reaching heaven realm to do it, even if he had a superb spiritual weapon. But now they believed it. They had to believe it. The emissary held his breath, his face full of disbelief. His whole body was trembling. He was shocked and angry. This heavenly son had actually been able to destroy his refined corpse army with a single slash. Tianyang had dared to annihilate his refined corpse army with one stroke. Boy, you've completely infuriated me now. The emissary's face was gloomy as he enunciated each word. The refined corpse army had been created by slaughtering millions of creatures and tens of thousands of spirit kings. Normally, such an army wouldn't even have a chance to make a move. However, the Sky Sun's sword had turned them into ashes that filled the sky. The emissary looked calm, but in fact, he was extremely furious. Low-class heaven-level martial technique, ancient god's sky-shaking fist. At this moment, the emissary suddenly disappeared. The next moment, his LV4 heavenly realm vital essence surged rapidly, and a terrifying fist technique was formed in an instant. Seeing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. The vital essence of the emissary seemed to be similar to a cultivation method, but it was too crude. At most, it could only be used as a guide. It wasn't very useful in a real battle. As the #1 martial holy land of the human clan, the ancient god's temple wasn't completely useless. At least, they had restored a little of the cultivation method. Although it's useless, Tianyang smiled faintly. Looking at the emissary, the stick's sword disappeared from his hand. The dragon elixir in his heart erupted. 108 divine dragon tattoos released a powerful divine dragon force that could suppress the heavens and the earth. It gathered around Tianyang's body, and it seemed as though a divine dragon was floating around his body. A tyrannical bloodline pressure was also released. Feeling this pressure, Golden Flame Ancestor's expression changed greatly. This is the dragon bloodline. At least dragon bloodline of the dragon bloodline. Damn it. ISN. Is dragon bloodline of the dragon bloodline dragon bloodline? In that case, he couldn't let the emissary of the ancient shrine deal with Tianyang alone. Great Elder of the ancient god temple. Let's go. The Golden Flame Patriarch shouted and disappeared. The Great Elder of the ancient god temple pondered for a while, then nodded and charged out. However, Nine-Tailed, space freezing. At this moment, a cold shout came from the side. The Golden Flame Patriarch and the Great Elder of the ancient god temple were blocked by the frozen space. They couldn't get close to Tianyang at all. Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor, how dare you stop me? The Golden Flame Patriarch's face darkened. Looking at the Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor, monster aura surged out of his body. Behind him, the shadow of the Golden Flame nine-headed lion slowly appeared. The great elder of the ancient god temple beside him also darkened. He released his genuine vitality of LV6 Heaven Ascension Realm. Why wouldn't I dare? The nine-tailed monster emperor smiled faintly. Her nine fox tails swayed as she activated her monster aura and charged forward. On the battlefield between the emissary of the ancient god temple and Tianyang, Dragon King's divine fist, 10,000 dragons slaughtering gods. Tianyang wouldn't hold back against an expert of LV4 Heaven Ascension Realm. He used his most proficient Heaven-class inferior fist technique right off the bat. However, Tianyang didn't use his spiritual strength. In terms of spiritual strength, he could easily kill any expert below LV5 Heaven Ascension Realm. However, that was under the condition that his opponent was unprepared. For example, the Fiery Lion King and the Refined Corpse Army were completely defenseless before. Using spiritual attack when one was unprepared was naturally the best option. However, if one was prepared, the effect of spiritual attack would be greatly reduced. Dragon King's Divine Fist. You're actually in contact with the EC Dragon Palace. The emissary of the ancient god temple exclaimed in disbelief when he saw the countless dragon aura condense in the blink of an eye. To be able to condense so much dragon aura in an instant, the strength of the Dragon King's Divine Fist had at least reached the perfection realm. A kid who wasn't even 20 years old had not only a strong cultivation, but also a powerful body and sword principle. Even his martial skill cultivation was so profound. Had this kid started cultivating before he was born? However, as a heaven-class inferior martial skill, I don't believe that my ancient god's sky-shaking fist is inferior to the dragon clans. Destroy. The emissary of the ancient god temple roared and released his vital essence violently. The ancient god's sky-shaking fist condensed a huge ancient god figure behind him, releasing a primitive aura. This was the totem of the ancient god temple and the inheritance of the ancient god temple. The ancient god? Ancient god? If that's all an ancient god can do, he doesn't deserve to be called a god. Tianyang smiled contemptuously. The power of the Dragon King's divine fist was completely unleashed. Boom! The nine-tailed monster emperor, ancestor Golden Flame, and the great elder of the ancient god temple had just started fighting when a terrifying, earth-shattering sound erupted. The three of them were interrupted by the loud sound before they had even started fighting. The nine-tailed monster emperor looked worried, while ancestor Golden Flame and the others were very proud. The emissary of the ancient god temple even used a heaven-class inferior martial skill. Isn't it a piece of cake to deal with a human bastard at the peak of the half-step to heavenly completion realm? Nine-tailed monster emperor, just you wait. The nine-tailed fox clan will be destroyed, and your position will fall into the hands of the Golden Flame nine-headed lion clan. Ancestor Golden Flame laughed loudly. The great elder of the ancient god temple next to him nodded with a hint of complacency. The emissary of the ancient god temple was not any lower than an ordinary high-level elder. Dealing with a half-step to heavenly completion realm was like using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Boom! Another loud sound was heard. At this time, the dazzling light produced by the collision of the two sides gradually dissipated. A figure flew out of the light, spitting out blood. The three of them did not have time to react before the figure crashed heavily into a mountain hundreds of miles away. Blood gushed out his mouth. He was unconscious. Sorry, the winner seems to be me. When the light dissipated, Tianyang threw away the bloody arm he had just torn off and smiled. Chapter 773. Peak of LV, one of the reaching heaven realm. Sensing the powerful aura that Tianyang suddenly exuded, the ancient god temple grand elder and ancestor Golden Flame could not help but exclaim in shock. Just now, Tianyang was just an ordinary expert at the peak of the half-step to reaching heaven realm. How did he suddenly break through a realm and reach the peak of LV, one of the reaching heaven realm? Such an increase in cultivation was rarely seen in one's life. Sure enough, the further I go, the more difficult it is to improve my cultivation using the devouring sky secret skill. When I fought with Blood Demon King Sumo, I was almost in this realm. Now, my cultivation has reached the peak of the half-step to reaching Heaven Realm, but when I use the devouring sky martial soul talent, I'm still in this realm. If I want to continue improving, the heaven-level martial soul will not be able to satisfy me. Tianyang muttered to himself as the heavenly sword in his hand flickered. When he fought with Blood Demon King, it was because there was an almost endless amount of demonic aura around him that he could absorb. Now, without the demonic aura, Tianyang could barely reach the peak of LV, one of the reaching Heaven Realm. Now, these people in front of me are exactly what I want. Tianyang's mouth curled up slightly, revealing a look of desire. Heavenly sword, I haven't eaten for a long time. Whoosh! Tianyang used the 10,000 paths body technique and disappeared in an instant. In the blink of an eye, he broke through Ancestor Golden Flame and the Ancient God Temple Grand Elder, and arrived in front of the Ancient God Temple Emissary. What? Ancestor Golden Flame and the Ancient God Temple Grand Elder's expressions changed greatly. They hurriedly turned around, looking frightened. Just now, how could Tianyang's speed be so fast? *M. He can reach the peak of LV, one of the reaching Heaven Realm, from the half-step to the peak of LV, one of the reaching Heaven Realm. This kid must have mastered an extremely powerful secret skill. Maybe it's from a sword star. Such a treasure can't fall into the hands of an ant with no background. The great elder of the ancient shrine thought for a while. Then, with a straight face, he shouted at Tianyang with a righteous tone. Boy, how dare you attack the emissary of the ancient god temple? You are courting death. The next moment, the great elder of the ancient shrine also used a powerful body technique. He disappeared from where he was and chased after Tianyang. At this moment, Ancestor Golden Flame suddenly reacted. He transformed into his original form and rushed after the great elder of the ancient shrine. What the first elder of the ancient god temple could guess, he could also guess. For the secret skill that could greatly improve his cultivation, the so-called alliance, it didn't exist. Damn it, I didn't manage to stop them. At this moment, the nine-tailed monster emperor's expression changed. She also executed her movement technique and chased after them. Come back. At this moment, in front of the emissary of the ancient god temple, Tianyang's calm smile reappeared in the eyes of the emissary of the ancient god shrine. The emissary's face suddenly turned pale with fright. What do you want? The emissary of the ancient god temple roared. His body had been shattered, and he didn't even have the strength to get up. He could only look at Tianyang in horror. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression didn't change. He slashed out with the great void sword embryo that was attached to the heavenly sword. Skypole, sword technique, third move, star burial. His genuine essence gushed out rapidly. A terrifying sword radiance, as bright as the Milky Way, poured out from the blade of the great void sword embryo. It was like the Milky Way from the ninth heaven, carrying with it a terrifying power that could bury stars. Damn it! The emissary of the ancient god temple narrowed his eyes, and his expression changed greatly. Tianyang didn't play by the rules. If he could stall for 1 or 2 minutes, he could still wait for the great elder of the ancient god temple to come to his rescue. But now, lower heaven level martial soul, vine of life, the emissary of the ancient god temple roared. The next moment, a dense light appeared from his hand. The next moment, it suddenly expanded. Boom! A huge green vine, as thick as the mouth of a vat, suddenly grew out from the emissary of the ancient god temple's hand. After a few breaths, the vine's thickness had increased tremendously. Almost everything within a radius of 10 miles was covered by this terrifying vine. You forced me to use the vine of life. I have to say, as a rogue cultivator who hasn't reached the age of 20, you are very successful. At this moment, with the vine of life, the emissary of the ancient god temple, who had been quickly healed by the strong vitality, stood up with a ferocious face. Looking at the vine of life, which had almost formed a world of vines around him, Tianyong raised his eyebrows slightly. It actually contains a huge amount of vitality. No wonder it's a lower heaven-level martial soul. It's really powerful. Tianyong chuckled. Hearing this, the emissary of the ancient god temple sneered. You are quite knowledgeable. My vine of life is one of the few heaven-level martial souls in Tianshao Great World today. Although its attack power is not strong, it is enough to deal with you. Vine of life, 10,000 vine attack. The emissary of the ancient god temple roared, and the power of his martial soul gushed out crazily. The countless green vines around him disappeared instantly. Then, they rushed toward Tianyong like a storm. Boom, 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 boom. The sound of countless vines whipping could be heard. The shield that Tianyong had formed in a short period of time could not withstand the terrifying attack of the lower heaven-level martial soul. Soon it exploded. Ha ha! The Vine of Life is my trump card. It is much more powerful than the Fiery Fire Lion King. In this world, all the enemies who have seen my Vine of Life are dead. You are no exception. The emissary of the ancient god temple laughed crazily. He continued to command the Vine of Life to attack. While attacking, the Vine of Life also transferred waves of strong vitality to him, allowing him to recover rapidly. Outside the world of vines, the emissary has used the Vine of Life. The great elder of the ancient god temple suddenly stopped. He looked at the terrifying life vines that covered an area of 10 miles and whose aura swept over 10,000 miles. Golden Flame Ancestor, stop. The emissary does not need our help now. The great elder of the ancient god temple waved his hand and said. His eyes shone with fear. The lower heaven-level martial soul was a terrifying martial soul that only existed in legends. Although the emissary's strength was not strong, with the Vine of Life martial soul, no one in this world could kill him. He had thought that the emissary would need his help to get through this crisis, but now it seemed that the arrogant kid was dead meat. Vine of Life? So, the emissary is the undying reverend of the ancient god temple. Hearing these 4 words, Golden Flame Ancestor stopped in shock and asked in astonishment, What are you talking about? The great elder of the ancient god temple nodded. That's right. The 9-tailed monster emperor's face changed when she heard that the undying reverend was dead. The undying reverend was the legend of the undying world. No wonder the 2 of them dared to let him fight with Tianyong. It was because of this. Ha ha ha. Kid, you can't hold on any longer, right? Since we've already come this far, there's no harm in me telling you. I'm the famous, undying reverend of the ancient god temple. The emissary of the ancient god temple laughed and looked at Tianyong, who was covered by the vines of life and could not be seen. Between the vines, Tianyong suddenly looked up. His eyes flashed, and the corners of his mouth curled into a subtle smile. Someone claimed to be undying in front of the undying bloodline? The evaluation is complete. This Vine of Life is not bad. I'll devour it. The undying reverend? Then let me break the legend of the undying bloodline. Tianyong smiled. In the next moment, the great void sword embryo in his hand emitted a dazzling xinguang. The 9-colored xinguang rotated in the heavenly sword. He struck with the sword. Chapter 774. Thousands of vines were broken. As the messenger of the ancient god shrine, the undying reverend's martial soul had sensed at the moment the Vine of Life was broken. However, a millisecond ago, the undying reverend had thought that it was normal for a Vine of Life to be broken. However, a millisecond later, how is this possible? The ancient god shrine's messenger's eyes widened as he roared. Looking at his broken vines of life, he almost went crazy. The life vine was a low-heaven-ranked martial spirit. Ordinary spiritual artifacts, even high-grade spiritual artifacts, wouldn't be able to destroy it. Not to mention that so many vines of life had been broken in an instant. Even if the first elder were to make a move, it would still be impossible for him to accomplish such a feat. What? In the distance, the great elder of the ancient god shrine's face changed. The undying reverend's Vine of Life was broken? How is this possible? This kid must be lucky or the messenger was careless. Otherwise, how could a human kid break the messenger's heaven-class martial soul? The golden flame ancestor shook his head and comforted himself. In the next moment, the broken vine of life, which had disappeared in an instant, slapped them hard in the face. Devour. Tianyang's face did not change. He activated the devouring power that he had not used for a long time and swallowed the broken vine of life into the heavenly sword. A pure and powerful martial soul power was quickly refined by the heavenly sword. Tianyang's face showed a trace of satisfaction. The vine of life was related to the life Tao. Although the life Tao was different from the life and destruction Tao that Tianyang had comprehended, it was still useful. However, it would still be of some help. Furthermore, the Heavenly Son's undying bloodline also happened to be related to the Tao of life. If I can devour the vine of life, I might be able to activate my undying bloodline. Tianyang's heart skipped a beat. He did not know how the Tian family head had activated his undying bloodline, but he knew. The undying bloodline was definitely related to the life Tao. A heaven-class martial soul was a manifestation of the Tao. Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you don't know what means you use to sever my life vine. That was just the appetizer. The emissary of the ancient god temple also returned to his original appearance. His face was extremely gloomy, and his body was surging with killing intent. God knows how many years it had been. How many years had it been since his martial spirit had suffered such great damage? Ever since he had awakened his martial spirit and become a disciple of the ancient shrine, his martial spirit hadn't been harmed in the slightest. Even if it had been damaged before he became a disciple of the ancient shrine. Now, as the undying venerable, who was above everyone in the ancient god hall, his martial soul had been severely injured. Die, brat. The emissary of the ancient god temple roared, and the vital essence in his body surged out violently. Countless vines of life grew out of his hands and then turned into long rattan spears. Vine of life, rain of life. With a loud roar, the long rattan spears automatically left the hands of the emissary of the ancient god temple and turned into a terrifying long spear that was not inferior to a middle-grade spiritual weapon. The spear pierced through the space. Countless spears rained down, and the entire space was almost turned into a sieve. Its power is not bad. Tianyang raised his eyebrows slightly and smiled. It seems that this is not a simple lower heaven class martial soul. However, the more complicated it is, the better. With that, the great void sword embryo in Tianyang's hands burst out a dazzling light again. Martial soul? For Tianyang, the grade of a martial soul was useless, except for the value of devouring it. This was because all martial souls were nothing in front of the heavenly sword, which could devour martial souls. Now, I can test the life and death Tao that I have just comprehended a few days ago on you. Tianyang smiled. Strange lights flashed on the great void sword embryo in his hands. Black and white intertwined, and the aura of life and death appeared on the great void sword embryo at the same time. Seeing this, the emissary of the ancient god temple was slightly stunned, and then he sneered. Playing tricks. In the next moment, countless spears rained down. Blossom in one thought, Tianyang said indifferently. Looking at the spears raining down, he slashed out with the great void sword embryo in his hand. The sword was very, very slow, as if it had reached its limit. Seeing this sword, the emissary of the ancient god temple laughed wildly. He laughed crazily and said, "Ha ha, have you given up on yourself? How dare you use such a sword to deal with my spears?" In the next moment, boom, Tianyang's sword did not hit anything and fell down. At this moment, the spears raining down seemed to have stopped in their tracks. A terrifying aura of life was released from the spears of life. In an instant, it filled the entire world of vines. What's going on? The emissary of the ancient god temple was shocked. Looking at the spears raining down with the aura of life, he did not understand what had happened. In the next moment, Tianyang spoke again. Blossom in one thought. The sword struck out again. But this time it was extremely fast. The countless spears raining down froze at this moment, and so did the aura of life. Before the emissary of the ancient god temple could react, the world of vines was stained with a layer of yellow. Phew! Tianyong blew a breath of air. Boom! The world of vines was instantly turned into ashes and disappeared from this world. Even in the hands of the emissary of the ancient god temple, the green aura of life was quickly stained by the yellow and collapsed quietly. Puff! The emissary of the ancient god temple suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura weakened. Pointing at Tianyong with a trembling finger, he spoke in an extremely weak voice. You, how did you do it? Hearing this, Tianyong smiled faintly. Nothing. It's just that my Tao of life and destruction is much stronger than your Tao of life. In the next moment, Tianyong's figure disappeared. The great void, sword embryo in his hand, suddenly emitted a terrifying, devouring power. It swallowed all the aura of life and martial soul power in the air that did not dissipate in time into the sword. In the distance, the first elder of the ancient god temple's face suddenly changed. Tianyong, how dare you? The golden flame ancestor and the nine-tailed monster emperor also changed their faces and revealed looks of disbelief. The emissary of the ancient god temple looked like a madman as he stared at the incoming Tianyong. Why wouldn't I dare? Tianyong smiled faintly and then stabbed out with his sword. Puff! The emissary of the ancient god temple's heart was directly pierced through by the sword. At the same time, the heavenly sword's powerful devouring power rushed into the emissary's mind and swept away his martial soul power. The true flames of destruction burned the emissary of the ancient god temple, the undying venerable, into ashes. Chapter 775. I'm going to kill you. A furious roar came from behind. The next moment, the great elder of the ancient god temple appeared in front of Tianyong with bloodshot eyes and punched out. The emissary of the ancient god temple was the undying venerable of the ancient god temple. His status was much higher than that of Kuaoyang's. In the end, his fate was the same as Kuaoyang's. He died at the hands of Tianyong. There are so many people who want to kill me. Do you think it's your turn? Upon hearing that, Tianyong smiled faintly. He slashed out with the great void sword embryo in his hand and blocked the sword easily. At the same time, he used the 10,000 paths body technique and retreated rapidly, dodging the great elder's next attack. You're just a nobody who has such strength because of your secret skill. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Hearing that, the great elder of the ancient god temple was furious. As the great elder of the ancient god temple, when had he ever been humiliated like this? He stood at the top of the pyramid of this continent and was one of the strongest men in the world. How dare you kill the undying venerable of the ancient god temple? Today you must die. The great elder of the ancient god temple roared angrily. The genuine core energy in his body circulated rapidly. The aura of a LV6 Heaven Ascension realm exploded from the great elder of the ancient god temple. Boom! The surrounding space was shattered by the overbearing aura, revealing deep space cracks. The next moment, the great elder of the ancient god temple's face turned ferocious. Medium heaven class martial technique, ancient god body. The great elder of the ancient god temple roared angrily. Then, an enormous ancient god body appeared behind him. Seeing that, Tianyong raised his eyebrows slightly. An ancient god from the ancient times? Ancient gods were called gods because they were unique. Although Tianyong did not know much about the legends of the ancient gods, the ancient god temple had a totem. The ancient god temple was able to use the ancient god as a totem and had been passed down for millions of years. As a totem, the ancient god could not be weak. The ancient gods of the primordial era had the aura to swallow mountains and rivers. They controlled the stars and trampled all over the world. They were invincible. With the power of the ancient god, formed the invincible body. Ancient god body condense. The Grand Elder of the ancient god shrine let out a loud roar. His imposing manner of LV6 of the heaven-reaching realm burst out completely. The ancient god's body behind him was rapidly solidifying. Then, at the moment when it was solidified to the extreme, the ancient god's body suddenly rushed forward and merged into the body of the great elder of the temple of the ancient god. Crackle! The sound of bones stretching and muscles contracting came from the great elder of the ancient shrine. The great elder of the ancient shrine's face suddenly became ferocious. His withered body, which was at most 7 meters tall, was now over 9 meters tall. His emaciated and weak limbs seemed to have received the blessing of some god of strength. His muscles bulged, and his aura rose from the 6th level of the Heaven Ascension realm to the middle of the 6th level of the Heaven Ascension realm. He was only a hair away from the peak of the reaching heaven state. The body of an ancient god can move heaven and earth. Dibrat. Low-grade heaven-class martial technique. Ancient god's heaven-shaking fist. The great elder of the ancient shrine laughed savagely. His feet suddenly stepped on the air, and a terrifying force was released from his feet. His figure instantly disappeared from where he stood. The ancient god's body's enhancement to one's cultivation was secondary. The increase in strength was the most terrifying aspect. The ancient gods had dominated the wildlands with their incomparably terrifying strength, and they had dominated the world. Sky Extreme Sword Art, 4th Sword Firmament. At this time, Tianyang's face turned serious. In his heart, the Divine Dragon's dragon core was constantly releasing the power of the Divine Dragon. The power of the Divine Dragon's bloodline was stimulated to the extreme. In his Dantian, the Divine Wilderness Heaven Spirit art was circulating rapidly. Like a flood bursting through a dam, a terrifying vital essence poured out and condensed on Tianyang's sword. A sword slashed out, stepping on the common people, dominating the firmament. Boom! Dazzling, gorgeous, wild, and domineering sword light burst out from the blade of the Great Void Sword Embryo. It was no less terrifying than an upper-grade spiritual weapon. It burst out in an instant and merged with the sword. Stubborn resistance. The great elder of the ancient shrine laughed savagely. His huge fist collided with the sword light. Boom! The collision caused the entire world to tremble. The speed at which the spatial ripples spread was even faster than the speed of sound. When the spatial ripples spread out like raindrops, the spatial ripples spread out. Only then did the voice come out. It made people's eardrums tremble. The collision between the two of them is so powerful. The nine-tailed monster queen suddenly attacked and pushed herself back a few miles. She looked at Tianyang, who was fighting fiercely with the great elder of the ancient shrine, in horror. This collision did not seem to be very powerful, but the nine-tailed monster queen was very clear. If it wasn't for the fact that the two of them had both used all of their power to attack, the two of them would have died. Otherwise, the impact alone was enough to destroy the space and shatter the entire mountain range into pieces. Nine-tailed Sacred Mountain. Countless members of the monster race also sensed the terrifying noise that was happening tens of thousands of miles away. Their expressions changed drastically. Those below the Sea of Souls realm could only hear the sound and guess that there were two powerful warriors fighting. As for those above the spiritual sea realm, especially the nine-tailed Fox Clan Spirit King realm experts, they were extremely powerful. The moment he heard it, he recognized one of the fluctuations. Yes, master. Ling Yuhan suddenly stood up, and the cold sky sword appeared in her hand. Her true essence was released along with the terrifying power of the Ice Emperor's heavenly sword art. The power of the peak of the 8th level of Sea of Souls realm, coupled with the power of the Nine Nether Saint body and the natural suppression of the nine-tailed Sky Moon Fox. At that moment, the entire nine-tailed Sacred Mountain fell silent. It is indeed Tianyang, and Father's aura. Zi Tianwang nodded at the side, and his face revealed a trace of seriousness. It seems that Tianyang's killing of the Flaming Lion King has infuriated those almighties after all. I'm afraid this battle will determine the leader of the monster race in the wasteland, Tianwang said. Then he looked at the clans in front of him who wanted to join the Nine-Tailed Fox clan and become their vassals. Many of these clans were attracted by Tianyang's amazing performance, and many of them were attracted by the Heavenly Ascension Realm LV3 elixir of flesh from the monster race around Fortune Lake. Tianwang had been busy with these matters for the past few days. Now, most of the people who could be here had already confirmed their loyalty. Looking at the leaders and ancestors of these clans, Tianwang's expression changed, and he suddenly raised his head. Everyone, do you want to join the Nine-Tailed Fox clan and contribute your strength to the Nine-Tailed Fox clan? Do you want to become a vassal of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan and become a demon among demons? Tianwang roared. Hearing this, all the clan's representatives roared in anger. Yes, then, now there is a chance. It is also the last test for all of you. Tianwang's lips curled into a smile. He was the heir of the Demon King, and next to him was the disciple of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's strongest ally, the princess of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. How could they not participate in such a great battle? They were only in the Sea of Souls realm, and they would only die if they interfered in the battle between the strongest. However, those below the Heavenly Ascension realm, they would be controlled by them. What test? Hearing this last test, countless clans' representatives were excited. If they passed this time, they would finally become a clan under the protection of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. Chapter 776. The entire Wasteland Demon Realm was in an uproar. The Raging Flame Lion King had killed his way to the Nine-Tailed Sacred Mountain and defeated the Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor, only to be killed by Tianyang. Now, the Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor, Tianyang, Forefather Golden Flame, and an unknown expert were fighting. Countless Nine-Tailed Fox vassals and the Nine-Tailed Fox clan's army had been mobilized to suppress the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion. This was a major event that could shake the entire Wasteland Demon Realm. Some unimaginably old men stared blankly at the demon race experts flying out of the sky like locusts, muttering to themselves. The Wasteland Demon Realm is going to change. Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor, your cultivation level is one level lower than mine. If you don't want to die, get lost now. Admit that the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan is the true royal family of the Demon Realm. Otherwise, you will die here today. Forefather Golden Flame sneered at the Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor, who had been knocked back by his punch, spitting out blood. As the forefather of the Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan, he had lived for a very long time. Even at the very least, he had lived for more than 3,000 years. Although the Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor was close to 1,000 years old, she paled in comparison to Forefather Golden Flame, who was more than 3,000 years old. No matter how talented the Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor was, she couldn't make up for the difference of 2,000 years. The position of Monster Emperor? Bah! How can a half-dead lion become the Monster Emperor of the Demon Realm? When the time comes, the entire Wasteland Demon Realm will be ruled by you alone. The Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, spat, and sneered. How could the Nine-Tailed Monster Emperor, who had been at odds with Forefather Golden Flame for decades, not know what kind of person he was? Without a doubt, this guy was the purest self-centered person. Even if it was his son or grandson, he would sacrifice them as long as they didn't work for him. The Golden Flame Nine-Headed Lion clan was also full of demon geniuses. Why was the Raging Flame Lion King, who was only 1,000 years old and was the great-grandson of Forefather Golden Flame, the clan leader? The reason was obvious at a glance. Forefather Golden Flame had come to Nine-Tailed Sacred Mountain not only because his great-grandson had been killed, but also because this was an opportunity to seize the position of Monster Emperor. To Forefather Golden Flame, the Raging Flame Lion King, and Golden Flame, they were all inferior to the position of the Monster Emperor. Humph! So what if I am like this? The Monster Emperor's position. You foolishly treat the people of the Monster Clan kindly, develop the strength of the Monster Clan, and try to compete with the Human Clan to raise the status of the Monster Clan. What's the use of that? You, as Golden Flame, as Forefather Golden Flame's golden demon Golden Flame to demon realm. The Golden Flame ancestor mocked as the demonic energy in his body surged. His 9 lion heads were burning with life-bound lion flames that were much more powerful than the blazing Lion King. Emperor Golden Flame, Emperor Demon Beast, Demon Demon, Demon Emperor, Demon Demon King. It would not be too late to kill the 9-tailed demon royal after the Grand Elder of the ancient god temple killed the arrogant brat. These Monster Clan people are worthless. Their only use is to enhance the Monster Emperor's strength. You don't cherish them, and now you want to blame me? T. The 9-tailed demon emperor's eyes burned with a raging fire. Her figure suddenly disappeared, and her 9 fox tails released divine light that filled the sky. The people of the demon realm of the wasteland are people, not slaves. The 9-tailed monster emperor roared. Half of her demon force gushed out again and attacked Forefather Golden Flame. Low-class, heaven-class martial technique. 9 heavens demon suppression fist. The aura of a heavenly completion stage level 5 expert surged, and the surrounding space was unexpectedly released by this pure aura, causing it to shatter. Seeing this, a trace of dread appeared on Ancestor Golden Flame's face. The 9 heavens demon suppression fist was not easy to deal with. However, I'm afraid you're at the end of your rope now. Be obedient and accept your death. The Monster Emperor's position is about to change. Golden Flame Ancestor burst into laughter. He released his natal lion fire and disappeared from where he was. A huge lion claw struck out. Boom! The whole world shook violently. The destroyed mountain range under their feet seemed to have been plowed by a giant plow again and again. The 9-tailed Monster Emperor's expression changed. Blood spilled from her mouth, and she was sent flying again. This time, he had been seriously injured. Although she was talented, she was still a monster emperor. However, her strength was only at LV 5 Heaven Completion Realm. There was a huge gap between her and the Forefather Golden Flame, who was at LV 6 Heaven Completion Realm. Don't tell me that the millions of citizens of the desolate demon realm and the countless descendants of my 9-tailed fox clan are going to be. The 9-tailed monster emperor's eyes were blurred. At this moment, Forefather Golden Flame sneered and turned to look in the direction of the great elder of the ancient shrine. He was not in a hurry to kill the 9-tailed monster emperor. He wanted the 9-tailed monster emperor to see how the Tianyang, who had killed his great-grandson, would be cut to pieces with his own eyes. In this way, the 9-tailed monster emperor would definitely counterattack. He could easily suppress her and ascend to the monster emperor's position. I wonder how the great elder of the ancient shrine is doing. That kid, who relied on a secret method to reach the peak of LV1 of the Heaven Ascension Realm, will probably be defeated by the great elder of the ancient shrine in one move. Forefather Golden Flame turned around and murmured something. However, before he could finish his words, his pupils suddenly shrank to the extreme. Great elder of the ancient shrine, you call yourself the successor of the ancient gods and one of the strongest men in the world? What? You can't take a beating? Tianyang, who was covered in demonic fire and standing on Xingguang, stepped on the great elder's face with his long sword, which was emitting endless sword radiance. Tianyang, how dare you treat me like this? The great elder of the ancient shrine was furious. He suppressed the urge to vomit blood and roared. Boom! Tianyang kicked him casually. The great elder of the ancient shrine was sent flying like a cannonball. Your body can't take a beating, but your spirit is quite tenacious. It's a pity that it's just a projection. It can't display its martial soul for me to devour. Tianyang curled his lips. Otherwise, the heaven-level medium heavenly sword would have been completed today. You even made me use 20% of my spiritual power. Damn you. Seeing this, Patriarch Golden Flame was dumbfounded and his whole body turned cold. What happened? Why? The one who was killed was not this human bastard, but the great elder of the ancient shrine. The great elder of the ancient shrine stood at the top of the continent. Oh, right, there's also a lion head, Tianyang suddenly raised his eyebrows. He didn't bother to pay attention to the great elder of the ancient shrine who was sent flying by his kick. A fierce killing intent flashed in his eyes. Slaughter territory, activate. Forefather Golden Flame felt that everything around him had turned blood red. His mind was trembling uncontrollably. You severely injured Yuhan's father? Tianyang said indifferently. He used the secret skill of Void Step and instantly appeared in front of Forefather Golden Flame. He swung his left hand violently. Slap!